It might be. We'll see. Good. All right, good evening. I'd like to call the October 15th, 2015 regular meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. In attendance for the meeting, our regular member is Holcrum, Sienna, Leskovich, and Geldenzi, and alternate member Gunn. The first order of business are the minutes, and we'll try to start with September 17th. Let's see. So I was gone. We have Fran, Ron, and Dave are here.
So we approve those minutes of the September 17th.
Oh,
Yep, I see some
sorry,
highlighted.
Before,
Yep.
sorry, I should let someone second, and then during discussion, I just have a comment.
Yeah. And you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, please. Under 77 Fowler Road, this was for Mr. Biermunder's
Biermunder,
proposal, just a minor change. It says here that, talks about Mr. Biermunder stated that the first floor was originally a machine shop, but today it is being used for storage. I just wanted to clarify that he stated that a second apartment dwelling unit was approved, as opposed to it just being, I think it was stated as being factual.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just to clarify that that's what he stated, because there was this back and forth about what was done versus what we had proof of, and so we just don't have any record of it. He claims that it had been approved, so just to clarify.
Okay, good.
the record.
And it wasn't on our blueprints either, right?
I'm sorry?
His amended blueprints had the apartment, but it wasn't on your records.
Correct, right. Those were the version that we had on file.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Abstain? Abstain? So 3 approves, 2 abstentions. All right, how about it's October 1st, right? October 1st minutes. I was here, Fran.
It was only 3 of us, so there's not enough.
Not enough, because, all right, we cannot approve the October 1st minutes. Okay. All right, next order of business, we have a continued public hearing, PZ application 2015-7. It's for a special use permit request under section 23.1, Schedule A, line C5, to allow restaurant use at 1565 Middletown Avenue. Map 67, lot 85, it's an R40 zone, owner Antoine Zemere, is that the applicant Ellie Zemere? It's probably not how it's pronounced, I apologize. Where were we
So
with this?
We
Yeah.
have the applicants here. I don't know if you want to comment, and I can provide an update as well. Okay, so I'll just pass this down.
Oh, so do we have to say who's in attendance? It's a continued,
Yeah.
it's continued, right?
Yes, so this has been continued.
No, they always delayed it. I don't think we ever had it.
Right, so we opened the public hearing on August 6th, and there have been 4 extensions granted. At least, right, 4 extensions granted. So we have to, I recommended that the applicant come before us and just provide any updated information, because we only have until the next meeting, which is November 5th, before the 65 days are up, and then we have to close the public hearing, and then the commission has the time to make a decision. So the information that we're waiting on, here are my comments, I'm gonna pass this down. So we're still,
So this is front and back, 2 sides.
waiting on information from East Shore Health. This is a plan from Nafis and Young that shows the septic system. And after talking with the applicant and the property owner, this shows the existing septic field. So apparently there's no proposed changes to East Shore Health. I received this on October 14th, and I reached out to Nafis and Young and have not heard back. There's not enough information on here to really tell me one way or another. And on top of that, we don't have comments from East Shore Health.
Okay.
And based on the believe it's the capacity of the tanks, if I'm correct. This has to be reviewed by the state. So that has not been done yet either.
It was a restaurant before,
Yes,
and it passed all the septic's requirements before.
yes,
The regulations have changed?
possibly. That's kind of outside of my realm.
Yeah.
I
It
don't know.
requires state review, obviously, of course, I mean, we need to hear from East Shore before we do anything, and obviously the state too.
Well, is it because it changed from a restaurant to a non-restaurant, now it's going back, so now it has to meet new restrictions?
It could, and it could also be the,
It's a new
the
application.
time, right, so it was a restaurant back in 2008? So. the
Yeah, maybe you
regulation
come
changed.
forward and just your name and,
My name is Elie Zamri. I'm the brother of Antoine, and I'm the one who is applying. So it was a restaurant in 2008, and then because my brother left the country, so he couldn't run it as a restaurant, so we decided to change, and then, you know, what happened. Now we're trying to get back into, you know, make a restaurant. But the septic's still existing, the same septic, and the engineer looked at it, he said there's nothing wrong, everything is fine. So he's talking to Alex from the health, from East Shore. Alex, I don't think he has a problem with that, but they're waiting for the state. So there are 3 of them are gonna meet maybe next week. So we're hoping they're gonna do it as early as they can. By next week, hopefully, if they meet, they decide if there's any changes we need to do or, you know, to improve on the septic. If not, we believe the septic is fine, there's nothing wrong with it.
so if I remember correctly, there were like 4 things
Correct.
you left with, and I know one was the bridge for sure.
Correct.
One was the septic,
Correct.
So,
and there were 2 others, I don't
Uh,
remember. Putting-
Property line.
Oh, yeah, the
The line.
map, the map was
Yes,
inaccurate.
it's all.
So the map's been resolved?
That's right.
yes.
Did that.
The bridge, the engineer came and checked it out, everything is fine, we have a letter.
We
Bridge.
just received this evening.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanna read that into the record.
Can I do it? I will. So, I'll read this. It's a letter dated September 24th. We got it today. From James A. Portley, P.E., 2222 Durham Road, Madison, Connecticut. It's addressed to Kurt Weiss, town engineer. So, dear Mr. Weiss, the referenced bridge was inspected on September 23rd, 2015 to verify its structural integrity since repairs were completed in March 2011. The wood plank deck and transverse wood support beams installed in 2011 are in good condition. The steel longitudinal beams running across between the concrete abutments appear to be unchanged since repairs were made in 2011. It is my professional opinion that the bridge is capable of supporting H-20 loaded vehicles. Respectively submitted, James A. Portley, P.E., and it's got his seal on the bottom. We'll check, make sure it's up to date.
What's an H-20 vehicle?
That's a fire truck,
The
I
fire
assume,
truck.
right? Yeah. That was the concern with the fire
That was
trucks.
the reason we did it in 2008 or 9, I believe.
So the only other component besides the East Shore Health is just coordination with DOT
Correct.
and improving access or any improvements that they would request onto Route 17,
So when does the 65 days run out?
November 5th.
November 5th, the next meeting.
It's actually a few days after that, but we don't meet again until later in November. So it expires between the November 5th meeting and the next meeting.
It's the 19th.
Have we had a public hearing out of that?
This is the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
We had a public hearing August 6th, we opened it,
Right.
and we continued it. And there's been requested for
Yeah.
delays, so we're just seeing it back here again.
And the main delay was, his East Shore with Alex, so we're still waiting. Because the engineer gave him all the paperwork and, Alex is not getting back to him, so he called him a few times. Now that I heard that, the state, Alex, and our engineer, they're gonna meet and then decide what to do basically.
So I guess, is the plan to try to have discussion on everything besides those topics, because there's nothing we can do about those topics, right?
Yes.
So at least we're clear on that, so when that does get resolved,
We'll just-
that's the only item
Well,
left.
we can close the
right?
public hearing tonight, right?
Well, no, I would
No.
recommend keeping it open because once the public hearing is closed, we can't accept any new information.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'd need the information from East Shore Health, ideally at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
Do you think
if I
you'll
can
hear
request.
back from the state by then? That,
We should be.
Yeah?
That's
Oh,
what
good.
Alex was saying, that's why they want the state, whoever is responsible.
To be
for it.
present.
They said they are going to meet in person
Oh,
instead
good,
of sending
okay.
letters and,
Yep,
that's why they were saying.
perfect.
They said they'd like to see face to face. if
Now,
they-
in 2008 or 2009, when we, have like different permit, what they did, they gave us conditioning, kind of condition, whatever, the, approval permit under the condition if to fix the bridge. And
Yeah.
when the bridge was fixed, and I think you remember a little bit. So if we can do something, sooner or maybe by that time, would be, great. Because the septic is gonna be, or it's gonna pass, or we're gonna have to fix it. So either way, we're gonna work on it, so.
Our goal, I see there's two separate septic systems.
Got a reserve, maybe?
There's one right outside the restaurant.
That will be the grease trap, I believe, and also one of the tanks.
And I don't see anything attached to it, and there's one in the middle of the parking lot, and it has existing leaching valleys. Are the two connected? Are
I-
they,
Yeah, I believe the one, if you, I don't know,
The one with the least trap, or the one with the septic.
there's a septic and then it shoot to another tank that shoot up in the middle of the parking lot. I think, of course, I believe they are connected.
it shows three right outside the restaurant.
Yes, one of them is the grease trap, I believe, and then the two,
Two is
the tanks.
Then it shows two more out in the parking lot, and it has those, I guess, connected to the leaching field.
Yes, I think that's the one on the, next to the restaurant, they shoot up to that one. Again, I'm not an engineer, I don't know how it works, so.
So do you want to, maybe we can focus on everything other than the septic? I don't know, does that seem reasonable? Because East Shore kind of has to,
Yes, definitely.
well, we can get to the septic, but maybe let's first talk about, do we have any outstanding concerns or items, non-septic related? So you can at least go home with an understanding that that's the only item.
This is
Or unless
outstanding
there's other
items.
items we bring up.
So the DOT, this was outstanding items, DOT Route 17, nothing there. The only thing we have is the bridge, right? That's been done.
Yeah.
And plan for parking lot, pave and patch combination, has that been addressed?
I think we give it to Tom.
That's what we are waiting for, the septic to be approved, like that we don't want to patch it and after that we
Yeah.
have to work on septic. That'll be another project. We already have a few quotes on our process, that's what we're going to pay this out to.
Yeah. So I guess it is just a bridge, right?
Septic.
The septic.
Oh, man. Sorry,
You know,
I guess all we have is the bridge.
Right, there'd be no reason to pave it and then have to rip up the
Yeah.
parking lot for septic. I guess my question would be, did you get the blessings from East Shore and we're waiting for the state? Or East Shore won't give you any kind of indication of
I'm
what
not
they're?
sure, I believe,
When I spoke to the engineer, he was saying that they already sent everything to Ishore and Ishore forwarded to states. But now Alex was saying it's better to let's meet with the state in my office, like it'll be, we can speed up the process. So, looks like he already submitted everything to Alex, Ishore. My engineer already submitted everything to Alex and he looked at it. He said, okay, that's what we are going to send it to states. So then after that, he said, okay, why can't we speed up the process and call the state to my office and we can sit there and I don't know which gentleman, I can't remember the name of the gentleman. He's the one who's responsible for all these
but I don't
things.
think Alex say anything,
No,
Right,
he
that-
did
that-
not.
That was basically my question.
No,
You
no.
know,
I think, I don't think he said
East Shore
anything.
didn't take a stand on this, positive or negative,
No.
they just passed the paperwork on.
Yes.
Which we know Alex, usually he goes one way or the other way, so, he tell you like what needs to be fixed.
Mhm.
But obviously he accepted and then he wants the state to do the final approval.
That's what I understood.
And looking at the plan, can you just remind us of the traffic flow, what the plan is? can show the concerns. Right, so people come in.
So once you go over the bridge, you're gonna go straight up to the parking lot.
It's like the upper.
The upper parking, yeah.
And then this way, when they're coming down from here, or they can come out from here too. And so this is the one which is going to the farm,
Mhm.
which we are going to fix this one too. Because we want, smooth, so I'm going to fix this. And then, as I think we were discussing, this one we are going to widen a little bit. When we spoke to the fire marshal, he said just a little bit more, it will be easy for the cars to pass. That's what we are doing.
So
I
basically
got-
what we're trying to, from the bridge, if you know the property, you're gonna go up, almost to the farm, take a left, park over there. So the exit, we don't want people to come back the same way, we want them to go around and come down the lower part, which is safer for everybody. And then that would be around, it would be almost like a big circle for them, come in and then turn around and then go out.
So this way, all the way, we are going to pave everything here, and for all the cars which we discussed with Tim.
Yeah, pay this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So there'll be, I think, probably to our 128 they gave us. They said we need 50 parking. What we are going to put in the middle, which will be maybe 72. It will come 66 here and 3 handicap parking. Which one will be here, 2 here, and one big, this area will be one big
So like
van,
that.
van
Yeah.
that
Yes.
takes more space. So, so we got 3 quotes on that, and they were saying they can put 66 cars here, and then 3 handicap cars. So we have enough, it's quite big parking lot, so. But of course, we have to paint everything, all these things. That's the.
And
Is this exist?
It used to be the lower part.
Yeah. Is it?
And, we're not gonna use it
You're not gonna
now.
use it, yeah, okay,
No.
so you're not using it.
When the restaurant was there, yeah, people
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
park out there.
Yeah.
And still be
you're
clean
just not
from
gonna
all the,
Yeah.
where the fire exit is, we clean all the way, if you go now, if you go there, we clean all this one already.
Mhm.
Because fire
Okay.
marshal said he wants to see where the exit is, so like that they can go. And here, we have to, we clean here, like that, in case fire truck goes there, they have easy access in and
Okay.
out.
Mhm.
And then any lighting proposed in
Oh,
that
yes,
area?
the Wallingford Electric Company, when we used to have a restaurant, yes, they come, when we ask them, they will come and they put all these bolts here. That's what, that
Do
was
you have
from
a
Elec-
plan showing that? Could you
Yeah.
have Nafis and Young add that to?
Yeah, sure.
That would be
yes.
helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely we were trying like to put as
Because
much
I didn't
light
call
as
the
possible
Wallingford
for them, especially at night.
people now, electric company, because I said we are opening in after some time, so as soon as we have all the approvals, of course, we have to, put some lights.
So the walkway down to the restaurant is gonna be all lighted, all, so people, it's easy for them to see.
So, right, we'll need all that on
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
the
Yeah.
plan.
Mhm, okay.
Yeah, you should assess too, because that's just they're just gonna put poles, but just make sure that's adequate for
Exactly.
the entire area too. 'Cause they're probably
Before
not
it used to be-
they're just thinking, I'm just gonna give
True,
you
I agree with you.
3 poles, but
Yes.
we wanna make sure there's enough light.
I mean, I'll talk to them about it, to see how many, too many lights they have.
You can put this way, here, and here, that's how it used to be like that.
Do we require the lighting in such a large parking lot?
Well, and, yes, and it's tricky in that this is a residential zone, so we don't wanna have too
Yes.
much light. I mean, all lights have to have the cutoff fixtures, so we're facing down. So I can get you the regulations on those.
There's no residence near the parking lot.
But it's still R40.
Still R40 though.
There's a
only
home,
farmland.
right, further.
Yeah.
All the way.
For the driveway, but not that for the
Yeah,
parking lot.
driveway, yeah,
No.
they have long driveway.
So as long as it stays within their property, it doesn't go their neighborhood property, that makes a difference.
They'll be happy if they see the lights here, they can see where they're going.
So the state for the road access has to comment as well?
Right,
Not
just,
just the septic.
they had mentioned,
There's a
her
house
Weiss
down
had spoken with
Yeah.
DOT and they had mentioned something like adding a stop bar on the pavement, maybe a stop sign. Similar to what they had to do across the street at the winery, they had to make those minor improvements.
Okay, so they've already said that, so we don't have to wait for that.
Have you spoken with them directly?
No, because,
Okay.
I was waiting for
Right,
the
right.
bridge,
This resistant
then
lighting.
paving,
Right.
that'd be like
That's a minor
calling
thing,
for,
just-
and then I would have to call, that's what she, when I spoke to her, yes, I did talk to her. She was saying, it's okay, when you finish everything, then you talk to me and maybe you need a stop sign, it'll helpful, it'll be helpful as, yeah, because whenever I'm leaving, I have to wait all the, there's no stop sign.
Mhm.
Which is, I think it would be a good idea if they put stop sign over there.
On
She-
Yeah, I was just wondering for our,
On the road.
If the commission's
But on their
comfortable with it, you could
On your,
condition
on your
that
driveway going up, on
as part of their
17.
approval,
No.
that they would have to
They won't shoot us.
comply with
Well, it
DOT's
doesn't have to, you have to
requirements.
wait for right of
And
way
they
to
could
go.
add them,
You know, it's not-
I know, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't.
prior to getting their C of O or something like that.
Private driveway.
any other comments? So I guess septic, state road, stop sign, the
Lighting.
lighting on the plan, and the paving and parking the driveway.
Now, what if we don't have the information before the next meeting? And 65 days expires.
Then, I think that it would be I don't know if the commission has ever conditioned approval, because I think that would be not
Would they have to resubmit?
advised. They would have to probably withdraw and then resubmit. Because,
Why would they have to go through the expense of resubmitting when in fact the delay is due to the state and East Shore? It's not because of them.
right, well, it's because we have a timeline that we have to stick to.
But I mean, we,
Not having
our
information to
engineer,
submit.
Right, I guess not having the information when they do submit, and, unfortunately, the timelines are what the state sets them at.
We can't extend it beyond.
No, it's
Okay.
65
Can we get
days.
a conditional approval?
Let's cross that
Bridge.
bridge.
At least we know the
When
bridge
we
is
get
safe.
there.
The
I
bridge
think
is
that
safe.
today was just to say, can we resolve everything, or what can we resolve tonight, right?
Mhm.
So that when we meet again, it's very clear, you give us what that's outstanding, if you have it, and then we're all happy, so.
I mean, the biggest thing is obviously is the septic, it's gonna be the septic, the rest is just putting a sign or paving, The septic is the most important thing, and we've been talking to Alex for a long time, but obviously it's,
Anything else? Do we open it for public? I mean, it's public.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the public want to make a comment? If you do, just come forward, name, address. Okay. Seeing none, I guess we'll just continue it till
Yes.
November
Fifth.
5th. So we'll continue PZ application 2015-7 to the next meeting, which is November 5th. Okay, thank you. So, next order of business is under 4B, it's PZ application 2015-10, it's a proposed amendment to section 54, alcoholic beverages of North Branford zoning regulations, to modify the text of section 54.4.1, location, to add the following sentence to the end of said section. Quotes, except that liquor outlets for on-premises consumption of beer and wine only shall be permitted within 500 feet of any church, synagogue, college, school, park, or town-owned playground, end quote. Applicant Albert Pacilio.
Good evening. I am not Bertie Pellegrino, who was here with you at the last meeting and gave this presentation. My name is Gail Sims, and I am with the Pellegrino Law Firm, and we're here representing Al Pacilio,
Oh, yeah,
who is present.
excuse me just a second, I just saw it. So sitting for the continued public hearing, sorry about that.
That's okay.
is, Our regular members, Holtbrum, Sienna, Leskovich, Galdenzi, and alternate member Gunn. Good, sorry.
And I believe that the hearing was continued, the public hearing was continued till today so that the commission could look at this, this map. I believe he did his complete presentation at the last meeting. If anyone has any questions or would like me to highlight it, I'd be happy to do so. But it was my understanding that everyone sort of wanted to get a vision of where schools were located. The point being that in every business area in your town, you have a school, a synagogue, a park, a church. There's no place for a restaurant to actually serve beer and wine. You're limited. And this was actually, the purpose of this map was to show us, which you can see clearly here in all your business areas. You have each one, you have at least one, multiple times in here. Again, I'd be happy to review anything that Bernie went over, or Attorney Pellegrino did at his last presentation, or if there's any questions. I think one of the important things to recognize is that most of the other towns and municipalities in this area have done away with this distance restriction. As a matter of fact, I think Attorney Pellegrino highlighted that out of your surrounding towns, out of the 12 surrounding towns, 5 have done away with it completely. 6 have restricted the distance language regarding package stores for off-site sales, for off-site consumption of alcohol. And only 1 has the dual, that's North Branford, and that is actually North Haven. We think it's affecting your economic development. You can't have you're not gonna come into town to open a restaurant with these restrictions because there's nowhere to go. You're also, when they're not allowed to sell the alcohol, you can do your BYOB, which there's less regulatory control over that. And also the time, I think the concern was the effects on children in the areas and other people. Well, most of the time, I think the kids in this day and age have seen the package stores, they've seen the restaurants, they're out to dinner with their families, parents or siblings may be having beer and wine. The hours that the restaurants are open, the schools are closed for the most part, churches and synagogues are not having any activity, and the parks are usually closed as well. Again, I know Bernie did an intensive presentation last time, so if you have any other questions or any other issues you think we need to address, I'd be happy to go over them. I mean, I think I truly believe that your regulation is something based on historic. The state doesn't even have the requirements anymore. They no longer have the distance requirements. So this seems to be a little bit antiquated, and I don't truly believe that it's accomplishing what it originally set out to do. I don't think it's no longer a valid issue. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you two here at the original? Do you need any background information or?
The original was original.
Yeah, I'm trying,
It was,
the last meeting
the
was
last
discussed, I don't know if it was
No.
discussed before. that.
October 1st.
Or it was the, okay,
Right.
you weren't.
So I guess the question also is if they reviewed the minutes, so
Yeah.
then we can.
Well, just as a background, I made the scenario that the rule or the, what we have on the books for on-premise liquor and beer is antiquated. As you said, any place, not only do we have those areas that have the schools and churches or parks or whatever, but they also, you can put a church up any place. And children do not walk to school, they do not, people don't walk to church. So the reason for them being within so many feet just doesn't seem to make sense. For economic development, all restaurants should be allowed to sell liquor or beer if they desire to. I went through all the records of all the other towns, and when it comes to like North Haven, they have a little section there that it can be detrimental if the town feels that it would be a detrimental effect on the church or private industry, parochial conduct, blah, blah, blah. And, or they can deny it, if if the place has been conducted as a lewd or disoriented establishment. So you might want to put something, because the whole thing came up about bars. Well, we do have we don't have any regulation on bars, right?
Right, it's, bars are treated as a
But if-
restaurant.
I know there was
Consumption.
some scenario that people said, well, you know, people could come into the restaurant after hours and just use the bar. Well, you might want to say in your regulation that once the restaurant closed, the bar has to close. Because in most cases, they're not looking, most restaurants aren't looking to do bar business. They want to supplement their income with the liquor and the beer, because there is a high profit in liquor and beer. A lot more than there is even in even in the food. You know, the next biggest expense is labor, but so liquor and
So just to be clear for everyone, this is just, the proposal is just beer and wine.
Right.
right. But if we're trying to change the
Right, well,
regulations,
that's
what are you going to
different.
do? Then we don't have to. We can't. The whole thing is that you can't base your new regulation on what somebody specifically has come in for. What you have to look for is the whole scenario, is what is best for the town or the businesses in the long run. So what would be the sense of saying, okay, not naming Basilios, but they can have a beer and liquor, a beer and wine? Why not just redo the regulation and say that, you know, any restaurant can have a beer or liquor restaurant, whether they're within so many feet of the church or not. And most of your towns, I mean, Branford has none. Guilford only has the 500, 1,500 feet. Most of them are very specific about off-premise liquor stores. All of them are 1,500 feet. Guilford does have 500 feet from schools. East Haven just has 500 feet from schools, 500 feet from package stores.
Yes, so, I'm sorry, Guilford, that was package stores? Nothing for
Guilford says
restaurants? Is that what you said?
1,500 feet from another package store and 500 feet from a school. That's
That's
only
package.
for package stores.
They don't have anything for
They don't
restaurants?
have anything for restaurants.
And for the locals, municipalities that don't have any regulations regarding distance, it's Branford, Madison, Durham, Orange, and Shelton. Then the ones that have the regulation for distance for consumption off premises, which would be your package stores, that's East Haven, Guilford, New Haven, West Haven, Wallingford, and Hampden. And then North Haven has it, but North Haven also has Washington Avenue, which is where all the restaurants.
Wallingford has
Yeah,
some too.
so they have,
What is North Haven?
North Haven has Washington Avenue, so there's,
What is North Haven's regulation?
they have the same. They have the same, right, a distance regarding package stores as restaurants. However, they also have a business area right down the center of town that doesn't have any, that doesn't affect, they're not affected by the churches, or a synagogue, or a school, or a park on Washington Ave. There isn't such a place in North Branford.
Again, even though you want to use this as a guide, what other towns are doing, you have to look at North Branford and what's good for North Branford. The way our town has evolved, from a farming town to a few little strip malls to more and more businesses.
Just one kind of administrative comment. I definitely agree that it's great to look at the whole regulation when when you have a text amendment. The biggest challenge that we come into is a notice requirement. So the legal ad that went in the newspaper for a text amendment was for this specific change. So if we were to delete that section, it would be misrepresented, so I just caution the commission. And
Alright, so
so
then-
I would just, take it, this item for now, and then if you want to revisit it,
It has to be
next
revisited
month,
because,
then we can do that.
you know, they're saying, what is their issue, 400 feet?
It's even less, I mean, it's right next
Yeah.
door. Is that,
The distance to the,
From the property,
yes,
75 feet?
75
100
feet.
it's only Merrick Drive that separates this property from the
field,
property of
Jerome
the
Harrison.
Jerome Harrison?
from the base, yeah, for
The
the
previous
field.
owner who was in there before applied for a permit, he was denied. We know
That was through a variance.
was denied.
Yes, because there was probably no hardship. I don't know what the hardship would be.
What's the hardship now?
They don't have to have a hardship. This is a text
This is
amendment.
a text amendment.
We're not-
Change
yeah,
the
we're-
regulation.
We just spent how many hours back in September or August?
But it doesn't matter how many we spent. Well, we were
Well-
short-sighted when we did it, that we didn't look at the whole thing. That now it's come to pass again, and, you know, you're just gonna have to readdress this thing over and over again.
Well, it's not a
It's good
hardship.
for,
They bought the
it doesn't
property
have to
knowing
be
it
a
was already
hardship.
there.
Doesn't have to be hardship.
Well, you're
A
saying.
variance, if we had applied for a variance, we would have had to have approved a hardship, but this, we
Right.
did not apply, we did it as a text amendment.
But he bought
so
the
we
property
don't-
knowing there was no liquor permit on the property.
But we
right?
don't have to, that's not our level that we need to meet.
No, it's internally between us. They bought the property knowing there was no liquor permit, knowing it was next to the school. Now they want to change it.
Right, for
Right.
the entire town, so it's.
Right.
Right,
I
for the
always
town.
encourage-
Nobody
I
walks
always-
to school, nobody drives
but
to church.
I always just
We never
encourage,
did in this town.
I always just encourage the commission to recognize that although it's
Yep.
always one project that's driving a text amendment, it applies to the whole town and our zoning regulations. So even though there's maybe one person who has interest in it and they're driving something, it impacts the whole town. So so there's no hardship that needs to be part of this because it's not specific to one parcel. It's specific to all parcels that serve alcohol. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But there's plenty of parcels that aren't near churches or schools that they could have put a restaurant and had a liquor permit.
There isn't, though, if you look at the map. There isn't a
There's one right down the street that was bought and sold, but then they put a building in.
You know, the whole thing is to drive economic welfare for the businesses, not to drive them to another town.
I think we should just stick with the proposal and discuss that, not
Well-
project it out to, right now, we have a beer and wine application in front of us. I think that's what we should,
It's all we can do.
that's all
That's
we
all we
can.
can do,
That's all we
right.
If
can
we're
do.
talking pie in the sky, and we have a specific
Mhm.
application here.
You're
Because,
exactly
you know,
correct.
Right, that's just what Carrie said.
Right, I'm okay with this, but, you know, when we start talking hard liquor, there's a difference between hard liquor and,
Well,
You
you
know.
can't get drunk on beer. Can't get drunk on wine.
Well, that's,
Well, anyhow.
Yeah,
as you
it's-
say,
it's his
we're
opinion, so-
focusing just on this.
any other discussion with the commission? You can ask for public comment. Any other discussion here?
How does this meet the existing zoning regulation?
How does it need it?
They're this is
proposing a text
changing.
amendment.
This is changing the regulation. It's to add this language.
I didn't recognize you at first.
So just, again, bring everyone back for administrative, just check-in. So the public hearing was opened October 1st. We have 35 days to have the public hearing open, which means that it would have to be closed on November 5th. So we do have one more opportunity for another public hearing, if you'd like, just to let you know where things stand.
Okay. Any other discussion, public comment? No, we can still talk more. Okay. So anyone from the public want to speak?
Dom Delvecchio, Sterico Inc., 847 Forest Road. First off, I just want to say that Dave made a very good comment in the end of this public session here, that they didn't come before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance, because certainly they know that would be denied. So the only avenue they have is for you to change your text amendment to allow them to serve alcohol at this location. Now, the other issue that's come up also is this idea that other towns don't have any regulations pertaining to on-site liquor consumption. And I could go through every town that doesn't have regulations for minimum setbacks from churches and schools for on-site liquor consumption, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is that the permitted use zones where liquor establishments are allowed are not in proximity to the schools and churches. So there's no need for them to maintain a minimum setback. And I'm going to show you a couple of maps from Durham and Madison just to point that out, to clarify it. It's color-coded. It should be easy to understand. I just want to come forward and share it with the commission if that's possible.
Sure.
First map I'm going to introduce is Durham. Every school, every church is located on this map. And you can see the white is all the residential zones, the green is Main Street residential, the dark colors here are your commercial and business zones where liquor outlets are allowed, whether it be on-site consumption or off-site consumption. Every school, Strong School, Coggins High School, Corn School, Brewster School, located well outside the commercial districts where liquor is allowed. That's why they don't have a minimum setback. It's a key point. I could go through every town that they mention and prove this to you. It's the reason they don't have a minimum setback is because they're controlling it through their permitted use zones where liquor establishments are allowed. Every church, here's United Church, the Epiphany Church, the Notre Dame Catholic Church, all in the Main Street residential, because they can't put liquor establishments in proximity to their churches and schools. And that's the reason they don't have regulations. And I could do that for Guilford, I could do it for Branford. And I have Madison, Carrie lives in Madison, she could also, the same identical situation in Madison. The green,
So
every school.
just so we're clear,
Yeah.
Branford has them everywhere. It's-
I bet you I can go back and
It
find.
has the whole, yeah, the
Yeah.
green.
Guilford.
Well, that one, that's in Guilford, that's a pre-existing non-conforming use that predates the zoning
Branford.
regulations. Now, here's
Like Branford's
Madison,
the same, too.
and you could go through and do the same thing in Madison. These are all their schools, and Carrie lives in Madison, she could verify the location of some of these if you choose. Kathleen Ryerson, Brown, Colson, Hand, Milton Jeffrey School, all of these in the green area in Madison, nowhere near the commercial zones where liquor establishments are allowed. That's why they don't have regulations with minimum setback distance. Same thing with the churches, St. Andrew's Church is here, the blown up part of the downtown district. Another school in the residential area. Island Avenue Elementary, I don't even know if that's still an active school or not, but then you have the Lutheran Church in Madison, all in residential zones. That's why they don't have minimum setbacks. And that's why North Haven and North Branford do, because what happened is that their business districts grew up around their schools and their churches, and that's why there are minimum setback requirements. And the minimum setback requirements are to discourage the public viewing of these liquor establishments on places of public gathering where young children tend to gather on a continual basis, where they're exposed to this view of a package store, the negative effects of the detrimental effects of the alcohol and the public advertisement and the flashing lights, all within close proximity to schools and churches. That's why you have this minimum setback requirement, because your districts for permitted uses for your liquor establishments are in close proximity to your churches and schools. North Haven is the same way. That's why they have the regulations. So for every town, you're going to find that there's a reason why they don't have minimum setback requirements. And Madison and Durham are a perfect example. There's no way they could ever get anywhere near their schools or churches. And the other issue is this, the minimum, today this 500-foot setback is used as a minimum setback requirement because of the detrimental effects of alcohol sales and the advertisement associated with alcohol within public view of your schools, your churches, your parks, your playgrounds. And the reason it's there, it's not there because they're concerned about the 8-year and 9-year-old kids at the playgrounds walking to the package store or to the bars. It's there because of the public view, the constant exposure every day at these places of public gathering where these young children and young adults tend to congregate. And that's the reason that they're in place. It has nothing to do, and that may have been the reasoning when Fran was younger. A lot of kids walk to school. The reasoning today, though, is it's a minimum setback requirement to ensure that there aren't any detrimental effects from the public viewing of these liquor establishments in close proximity to schools and churches where these young kids tend to congregate, places of public gathering. And this all originated in state statute, and it's section 30-46, the proximity of the permitted premises will leave detrimental effect within the church, school, public schools, it all originates in,
Is that act, that's not
this is an
correct.
active statute. But what the state did, because of the way each town is laid out, they said, you know what, we're gonna leave that to the individual towns, because every town is laid out differently. We're not gonna set a mandatory minimum separating difference, because every town is different and unique. Let them address it individually, and that's what happened here. Now, this is North Haven, a very similar situation where the schools and the churches kind of grew, the business districts grew around the schools and churches. Unlike Durham, Madison, some of the others, I could come in and do the same thing for some of the other towns. This is the quote for North Haven. The proximity of the location will have a detrimental effect on a church, school, public playground, but it's the public viewing they're concerned about, the constant daily exposure. They're not concerned about an 8 or 9-year-old kid playing on the playground, walking by the restaurant that's serving liquor, or walking by the package store. They're concerned about the public view, the proximity of this liquor establishment to the churches and schools, and that's the
I
reason.
can understand
Yeah.
you've put a lot of work into
Right,
this.
right. But that's the
But
reason.
number
we-
one is, as far as restaurants,
Yeah.
they don't have any flashing lights. I don't see any restaurant has flashing
No,
lights
but-
saying liquor. Maybe the liquor stores do.
Right.
Two,
Yeah.
if they're gonna be bombarded, they're gonna be bombarded with television ads.
I
They
was gonna say, with all due respect,
glamorize your
Tell-
beer
But
and
it
your
Yeah,
is
wine.
limited, the
that's,
advertisement is limited to adult viewing hours on TV. They have restricted that somewhat, but the other thing, just keep in mind, that it's a constant daily exposure that they're concerned about, not the one-time ad, and my understanding is the federal government has restricted it to nighttime viewing, these public ads, or big sporting events, whatever, but.
You know where
it's
kids' faces are these days?
Yeah, certainly.
From
Yeah,
8
yeah,
on?
Yeah.
They're
But this,
here.
I'm just trying to give you.
They're constantly
some insight
bombarded
on that.
by
And
these
the other thing
things.
you have to consider that, without this regulation, this minimum setback requirement, you're not gonna be able to regulate the proximity of schools and churches. Not only restaurants, I know we're primarily concerned about restaurants, but it's the same thing, your pubs, your taverns, your clubs, your bars. Once you eliminate this, you cannot regulate any distance. You're not gonna be able to restrict any of these locations, because you're eliminating now the regulation you have in place to restrict the location of these facilities to your churches and schools. So you can't do it on aesthetics. You can't say, well, I don't like it because the lighting isn't right, or the parking isn't right, or adequate, or, you're no longer gonna be able to regulate it based solely on aesthetics. It just is not going to, work. And in this case here, there isn't any restriction at all. It could be within 25 feet of the school, 50 feet of the school. It's kind of wide open the way it's set up. And like I say, my personal opinion that the on-site consumption is the most offensive use, that requires the most police resources. You have, people using bars, taverns, pubs, whatever, drinking too much, becoming unruly. That's where all, a lot of the concern is with taxpayer dollars, with police, having to deal with these issues here.
You mentioned bar though, but this is, well, it could be a bar of beer and
Could
wine,
be a tavern,
right?
could be a bar, it could be a club.
But beer and wine only,
That's
right?
what they're proposing, but.
that's what we're saying.
Right.
That's what we're looking at, right?
Right. But it could
Okay.
be a bar, it could be the Tilted Tilt, it could be Hooters, it could be anything. I mean, beer and, that's all they serve is beer and wine. I mean, so, it's not limited just to restaurants. I know you're primarily talking about that, but your regulation is wide open. Once you open the door, it pertains to everybody, the bars, the taverns.
Pertains to everyone that will serve beer and wine only,
Right, well, yeah, right.
so.
In Madison, between 77 and 79, there's the Congregational Church there, right?
I did lay them out the best I could. I don't know if I missed one, but.
Across the street, isn't there a pizza restaurant across the street?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that is.
Or
Up the
77?
79 and Route 80.
Yeah.
I don't know if they serve
Yeah.
liquor there. I know there's a
That's the
pizza
question I
place.
have.
There's
Circle.
a,
I don't
in
know
the
if they
shopping
serve
center.
liquor.
there's a
Circle.
bar.
No,
Pizza.
it's not in the shopping center, it's on.
It's on the
79.
Rotary almost.
Yeah.
I think it's that's Circle Pizza.
Do they serve beer? and
I
wine?
don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a convenience store
And
there as well, but I don't
500
know if
people.
they
The church,
serve, sell
serve
alcohol.
More than 500 people.
Isn't the church right across the street though?
Yeah, no, it's set back off the road, but I would imagine that's at least 500 feet. But if you look at that, that's the reason why some towns don't have any regulations, because they're controlling it through the permitted use zone.
Well, and so that area that you're talking about, Dave, is actually labeled as rural shopping district, and it is right across the street from where that Congregational Church is. And that's
again,
also where Robert's shopping center is. I mean,
Well,
that's
I
down
have it,
a
I
little
have
bit
it in the
further.
residential zone, right?
Right,
They're in the
right.
residential zone.
Right, but it's just,
But
it's
this
across
dot,
79.
don't forget, that dot is basically 500 feet. I mean, so it's not, it's well outside of that 500-foot setback. That's why it's not regulated.
and again, we have to look at North Branford.
No, I know, but I'm just pointing out that your situation, Fran, is different than some of the other surrounding towns, and the way they're regulating it is through the permitted use zones, where you have this because what happens is your business district grew around your churches and schools. That's a big distinction. All right.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Just name, address, and then,
Yep, good evening. Joanne Beatty, 245 White Hollow Road in Northford. And Fran makes a good point when she says, oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Well, either way, when you take away this regulation, you want to encourage economic development and businesses coming into town and whatever. It could also have a boomerang effect where we own a business, it's going to take away from our business, okay, and other businesses. It's going to open the door to bring in men's clubs, all kinds of things, anywhere they want, which, like Mr. Delvecchio said, will increase, taxpayer dollars as far as police goes. Flashing lights aren't always limited to the advertisements on the building. You've got police cars with flashing lights. Be it beer and wine or hard liquor, you get that occasional person, who overindulges and makes an unnecessary scene, okay? You don't like it, but it happens. I think, like, that's what it was, Fran said, you don't want to be short-sighted, okay? I agree. In the same respect, you need to look at the big picture, okay? I wasn't involved in any of it, and I'm not making an opinion one way or the other, but just a little while ago, you had something with the propane tanks, where because of one person's desire, which is the same thing that's happening here, a proposal was made to change a regulation, the regulation was changed, and for whatever reason, people weren't on top of it, and it's caused a hullabaloo, okay? I would caution against doing the same thing. The public hearing on this amendment for beer and wine is, going to close soon. And Fran was right. If you're going to look at making a change, do it the right way. I don't think you need to make a change. I think it's here for a reason. This is North Branford. As far as Branford not having a regulation, I think is what you said. Okay? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, wasn't Branford just voted the drunkenest town in Connecticut? Yeah, I believe so. I read that somewhere. There was a list. North Branford was actually on it, but, we were kind of low.
I grew up in Branford.
Pardon? Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was hysterical because I thought Wallingford, had that distinction. And I saw Branford. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to double check that. It was Branford.
You said you own a business.
I don't own the business. I'm related, Duties Totoket Inn, which is just down the street from where this establishment is.
But,
Okay, so what I'm saying is I can speak from somewhat experience that it's,
what you're trying to say is that if a restaurant gets a beer and liquor license, and let's say they're not going to Duties tonight because tonight they want pizza, or tonight they want Chinese, or
they
Vietnamese
should
or
be able to
anything,
have beer and
that
wine.
doesn't really take away from Duties.
No.
Because Duties does a big bar
Okay,
business.
what I'm saying is, if you take away the regulation and anybody can serve beer and wine, why can't I go between Duties and Jerome Harrison, open a men's club, and sell beer for 25 cents over my cost? Now, I have people coming, taking advantage of this, because there's no regulation, and it could be outside of that 50 feet, but the point is, you're opening the door, you're opening a can of worms, in my, opinion.
They could do that anywhere, though. Well, right now, they can't do it near the school. But
They can't
can-
do it
can
near a
do that.
school. They can't
can
do it
go
near a
down
church.
the other end of Route 80 in any
Okay,
business that's
but
open.
ideally, you want to be in the business section,
Well, usually the men's club or, there's a few bicycle, motorcycle
Yeah,
clubs.
I don't know much about it, but I'm just saying.
They do have, and I think most of them, either you can bring in liquor, I don't think they sell the liquor. But, and then they have to get a liquor permit, which, the state gets involved in, state has its own regulations. I
I'm just
understand what you're
asking,
saying,
I'm
and it
just
makes a
asking,
valid point.
yeah, that you tread carefully, very carefully, and, it not be, I don't want to say a knee-jerk reaction, but a well-thought-out. There hasn't been an issue, it hasn't proposed a problem, it's worked, I think, well, the way it's been, and I think you need a very good reason to change it, okay? I don't hear a public outcry that we need more places, and I think it should just be, like I said, thought out very carefully, okay? Thank you.
Good, thank you.
May I respond?
Yes.
Is anyone from the
I'm
public?
sorry.
Anyone else from the public?
Can I make one more comment?
Do you mind, just let's go through the public and then you
Yep.
can.
I thought it was all set.
And I think Bill made a good point. There's certainly other locations that they could locate to, whether it be the men's club or whatever, outside of these 500-foot setback areas. There are plenty of locations at the other end of town. This is site-specific for one individual. So, and the other issue is you can always bring your own booze. I mean, my understanding, there aren't any regulations that prohibit anyone from doing that. And the other is, the more important thing is that this regulation was enacted for the public health and safety of the community. And as in the other issue before the court, it's going to be very difficult to override it because, basically with economic development or economic concerns are not going to override a statute that was enacted to protect the public health and safety of the community. And economic development isn't going to carry the day.
It's approved as a
But-
detriment, that's the only way it's not, it can be turned down if it shows as a detriment to public health and safety.
Right, right.
You have to show that that restaurant that happens to be serving beer and wine is a detriment to the public.
And that was my argument. That was my
Or
argument.
they have lewd entertainment.
Right. That was my
things like
argument. The constant daily exposure to liquor sales in close proximity to churches and schools, I consider to be a detrimental effect. You may disagree with that, but that's my opinion. All right.
How many
Thanks,
other
Tom.
lots do we have on economic development that are next to churches and schools that are open for development?
First one that comes to mind is 1599 Coxon Road, which is the town-owned parcel, so if a restaurant were to go in there. But it's a question of if the building, depending on where, assuming a building were to be built there and house a restaurant that wanted to sell beer, wine, or alcohol, I don't know if they would be 500 feet. Actually, it would even be 400 feet because there's a two state highways. But it would be 500 feet to the Episcopal Church, which is on Route 22, because you would measure going back along to Notch Hill. That's the first one that comes to mind. I'd have to look at distances. I think, in that same area, the shopping center where Leone's is and the shoe cobbler and Niagara Bank, I believe that's probably more than 500 feet from that church.
It's across the street too.
Correct, so 400 feet.
So there isn't many pieces of property near churches and schools.
I'd have to look at I would think that Central Plaza would be, that would be across the state highway as well, so that would be 400 feet.
Well, it's already got restaurants in it though.
Package store.
But I believe Nada's is, that's right,
You
true.
got,
And Nada's is BYOB, and the
you got-
package store is definitely farther.
But you got the Chinese, not the Chinese.
Oh, Wasabi, Japanese, right?
Wasabi. Essential Pizza used to sell beer. What was their permit for? Beer and wine?
Which one?
Central, that closed up.
But they're not, there's no
But they sold beer though, right?
Is there a church or?
Where?
No, they were in the plaza, she's saying close to the school, but she mentioned Central Plaza. Yeah, there's no school near there. The church had moved, right?
There was a liquor store there at one point.
There's still
In
there.
Central Plaza?
They're
They're still there.
But, so there isn't many pieces of property.
Well, I'm just thinking on Foxen Road near this parcel, near Jerome Harrison. I think this is the only one.
The one that just opened, the restaurant that just moved, Nadia's.
Nada's?
Do they have a liquor permit?
No.
Or BYOB.
But
They've
I
never
think they
had
are
one.
probably more than 400 feet from the church, and it would be 400
Yeah.
because it's
But they're
state
too
highway.
close to Wasabi. Gotta get one.
What's that?
They're too close to Wasabi to get one.
Historically, yes, but remember that
We
was
changed
changed.
that.
Yeah.
And then going up to Northford Center, the complex where Dunkin' Donuts and Subway is, if a restaurant wanted to go in there, they would have to be more than 400 feet from the parcel boundary, which I believe they are. Mr. Delvecchio actually owns that parcel. So if a restaurant wanted to go in there, I think they would comply because they would be 400 feet.
The whole center is open though, yeah.
The only other location that I'm thinking of is in Northford Center, there's the Congregational Church up on the hill. Again, I don't know if that's 400 feet, if there's any, maybe the diner that's sunken down in there.
The old post office.
The old post
is,
office?
doesn't meet the 400-foot restriction.
It's across the highway.
That is within
though.
400 or?
No, it's within 400 feet. That one building
Okay.
in the entire center is the only one that's affected by that 400 foot.
There's business going up the hill too. Isn't there?
Yes.
So I mean, that, it's not a, it's like a contractor, but that could be
Right, well, right, and that's zoned B3.
B3. Okay.
And then going up on Route 17, if you look in the zoning map, there's Northford Park. I believe,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that the name
Yep,
of that park?
yeah,
there?
Northford Park, right.
So, and that's zoned B1 across the street, so again, anything that maybe could go in there, I believe, the only thing that's there now is a
There's an
Tony
Easter
Z's,
restaurant.
Tony Z's.
Z's, right, and
Which is
the
beer and
convenience
wine, yeah.
store, the gas station.
Mhm.
So it's not impacting any development then, really?
Currently, no, with the exception of, well, I guess currently, no.
Yeah.
I just forgot to leave these at the front, just so they get on record.
Oh,
The,
thank you.
State statutes like north of the.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? All right, thanks for your patience.
No problem. With no disrespect to Mr. Delvecchio, Branford Town Green, as I think you all know, if you stand in Branford, if you turn around, you see a church, and you probably see 8 restaurants. They are not grandfathered in. I think of 3 that have actually changed hands in my recent recollection. I also don't think that children of any age, seeing people, families, couples going into a restaurant is going to be detrimental to their moral compass. I just don't see that. Most kids in this day and age have been in and out of restaurants themselves. They're in the restaurant. It is not going to affect their moral compass. It's not going to corrupt these children to see families or couples going into a restaurant where they serve beer and alcohol. Kids these days, we're talking about commercials, the internet. Every young kid has an iPhone. They can check everything. They see a heck of a lot more than you and I will ever see. That's going to harm them rather than going to a family, going to a restaurant, a pizza place, or any restaurant where they serve liquor where they serve beer or wine. As we're talking about, it's been discussed, you can bring beer. You're not allowed to have that beer or wine permit. You can bring alcohol. You can bring it into the restaurant. That's not going to be regulated. You're not going to have a bartender saying, you know what, you've had one too many, or you shouldn't be doing it. It's going to be completely unregulated. So whatever argument you're saying that kids are going to see people or be exposed to people going into a restaurant, they will, but then they're going to be carrying the beer, the wine, the 6-pack, the coolers in and out of the restaurants, as opposed to actually being served in the restaurant. So I don't think that argument really carries much weight. You can go to a baseball park and they're going to serve, people are walking around with open cups of beer, alcohol. You go to a football game, they're carrying, are you going to tell your kids you can't, if you're you're not allowed to go to those activities. The difference also is, in North Branford, there's not a lot of places where you can put it. You cannot put that restaurant in any place that's not within a stone's throw away from a church or school or school. But again, I think Mr. Del Vecchio's concern has been the fact that it's detrimental to the youth of North Branford. I hardly think the youth of North Branford are going to be corrupted by a restaurant that serves beer and wine. And I don't know if I have anything else to add to that, because, I mean, I think the kids are pretty sophisticated these days. And I think, like again, they're still going to be able to consume the alcohol, but now they're going to be carrying it in and out. And as far as the state regulation, the state backed off. That's from 1950, I think 1950 or 1962. We also have stores open on a Sunday now. We didn't have that in 1962. I don't think most people would agree that we should have all of our stores closed on, all retail stores closing on Sundays. I have nothing further, but thank you for your consideration.
Just one comment, and I'm done for the evening. I just want to remind everyone, it's not just restaurants we're speaking about. This affects your taverns, your bars, your pubs, your clubs. It's not specific to restaurants. So once you eliminate this, it opens it up for the bars, clubs, taverns, pubs. It's no restriction at all. I know we're primarily talking about restaurants, but it affects all on-site consumption liquor.
Of beer and wine, just so we're clear on that. It's only beer and wine. Currently. Yep.
Just one more comment.
Yeah, your name again. I'm sorry.
Joanne Judy. I'm having a problem with just beer and wine versus hard liquor. We have drug-free zones, that pertain, and they're like 1,000 or 1,500 feet. They're there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, compare drugs and alcohol is the same thing. I don't think we need to embrace it and just throw that regulation out on the hope that it improves economic development. And I am concerned about what our kids see, okay? Just because they have access and they're exposed to and they can see it, there's those of us that our kids don't watch television. We monitor what they see. We don't want it to be okay, We have a restaurant. We don't drink, I just think it's flippant to say it's only beer and wine. It's only beer and wine.
So
That's what I'm having a
just to
problem
respond,
with.
I was just saying for everyone's administratively, what we're considering tonight is only beer and wine.
Okay.
That's their proposal.
Okay.
So I was making sure that,
Well, thank
because
you.
Dom just kept saying that it's clubs and things
Why
that
can't a club
may
just
suggest, well, it
serve
could be,
beer and
it
wine?
could be a club, but it can only serve beer and wine. So if a club could come, but it could only serve beer and wine under the proposal. I was
That's-
just trying to make that clear to the
Okay,
commission.
well, thank you.
I
But-
wasn't, that was my personal
It
opinion
just
or anything.
ruffles my feathers when I hear it's
just that-
only beer and
I
wine.
just wanted to make sure the commission understood the fact that this before us is for beer and wine only.
Okay,
It
thank
could
you.
be any establishment that serves beer and wine. The Dom is correct, but it can only be beer and wine.
Okay,
That's
you're-
all we're
you're-
considering.
Your 15, 16, 17-year-olds that are getting in trouble, it's with the beer, it's with the
Yeah.
beer.
Mhm.
That's what they're drinking, and that's what's
Understood.
causing these accidents, and, I'm sure if you had people
Yeah.
here from MAD, they'd be saying beer, wine, anything. I don't think you need to expand it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I just want to make one last thing, and then I will keep my mouth shut. We keep talking about, the alcohol being served, or not, the beer and wine being served in restaurants, and that they don't want that and what is that. They can still bring the beer and wine in. So I don't know what the basis for that argument is, because you want to provide a service, but you're not protecting the children because from their eyes by seeing the alcohol. I think Judy's has a patio, which means that my recollection, I've driven down by Duties or down around, there's a lot of beer drinking outside. Kids are in the car driving by, they certainly see it. So
So I think we're clear on
You're
this.
good?
I'm
Okay.
not sure I
I'm
want to
done.
go back. I
I'm
don't want
done.
to. Yeah.
Just for the record, Duties has like about an 8-foot high fence all around that patio
In the
for
back.
privacy.
But kids are
And
there.
the other issue too that you should take into consideration, you should really try to review the Department of Public Health website, and you'll see that the exposure and the issues with the drinking and drug use of young adults and children is astronomical in the state, and it's occurring at an alarming rate, and they're really trying to get it under control. The town of Clinton just recently in January passed a regulation similar to yours, and so.
Okay. Thank you.
One question, the BYOB, you need a permit for that? Must be approved, or can anybody?
Not from the state and.
No, town.
No.
It's a gray area, I think, right now.
Our regulations only speak to sold at retail for consumption on or off premises.
Was there
Sold at
restrictions
retail.
to school and churches, though?
No.
So you can open a BYB,
Right, because a liquor outlet is defined as something that, with a valid existing permit. Let's see, so let me just see the definition of a liquor outlet. It talks about the following regulations shall apply to the location of any business where alcoholic liquor, wine, beer, and/or ale is sold at retail for consumption on or off premises, under a permit issued by the Liquor Control Commission. And the state does not issue a permit, and this doesn't speak to BYOB.
so if a restaurant opened a club next to a church or bar, school, people can bring liquor in and drink it? There's no restrictions to BYOB?
Right.
Yes, and that's hard liquor also, not just beer and wine, whatever they want.
I think, but also the business has to be open to that.
Right.
I mean, you may or may not want people doing that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But there's no liability to the restaurant. If you bring in your own alcohol of any kind, and you pour your own glass, the restaurant does not touch your bottle. It doesn't, has no control. You could fall down drunk, and it's not a liability to the restaurant. That is BYOB.
They fall down, it's a
But
liability.
on the other hand, if they're allowed to have wine or beer, then the onus is on the restaurant to shut you down.
But, I just have to add a little something to that. Let's just say it hasn't come to the courts yet, that somebody's suing a BYOB because the restaurant, even though they're not liable, may say that, yeah, they really were liable. They saw this going on and they didn't at least try to stop it.
I don't think it's in the business's best interest to have people falling over drunk
No.
in their place of business. It's come have your BYOB.
No, what I was saying is the
Eat my food and then leave so I can have someone else sit in your seat and I can make more money.
Right.
Some restaurants,
I
that's
mean,
where
we've all taken taken our children or grandchildren to a restaurant because it was grandma's birthday or somebody's anniversary, and we drank, and the children are there, so the influence of us seeing us drink, whether we're in a restaurant or whether we're at home, it just doesn't apply.
As part of the presentation at the last meeting, Attorney Pellegrino presented restaurants, sale of beer and wine are vital to operation of many restaurants. So how vital is it to your restaurant? Yeah, part of the presentation at the last meeting by Attorney Pellegrino explained the sale of beer and wine is vital to the operation of many restaurants. So is it vital to your restaurant that beer and wine sold?
Mr. Basilio, can you just get up your name and your...
It helps for the business.
Just give your name,
Profit.
your name and address.
Albert Basilio, 285 Foxen Road. Yes,
So
it helps for the profit to maintain a business, to be successful and stay in business. And it's more of a convenience too. I mean, who wants to stop at the package store on the way to the pizza place to grab a six-pack or a bottle of beer, then go eat?
Can I add to that? Seeing as I owned a restaurant for many years, I think I mentioned before, a lot of your profit margin comes from your liquor, beer, and wine. Much more than your food, maybe at the minimum 33%. Your labor costs are in there and all the other issues. But your profit on liquor is very good. So in order to the restaurant not that he won't succeed, is it absolutely necessary that he have a liquor, this permit to sell pizza? No, it's not necessary. But in the end result, for anyone, not just Mr. Pacilio, but anyone who would like to sell beer and wine, because it's going to increase their profits, and they're still under the jurisdiction of the law, they still are liable for anybody who overdrinks. So, you know, the question is kind of two-sided.
But he also bought the property knowing he didn't have a liquor permit. It wasn't liable to the current code.
Yeah, but we shouldn't base our
Yeah.
decision on
So-
a specific.
I also bought
He
the
also
property not
didn't
knowing it
know
was gonna have to get
that-
knocked down because of the foundation.
Right, he didn't know
You know?
that he was gonna have to redo the whole restaurant.
A lot of things I didn't
As
know.
Gary mentioned, this impacts the town, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Any other discussion points? Any- For the applicant to clarify? You don't have anything further, right? From,
No,
did there any referrals or anything, right?
no. Can I just ask for a gauge, because I did not draft a motion for this evening, I
Mhm.
can do that, but can I ask that question? Based on timeline, we have until November 5th, if you'd like to keep the public hearing open, or you could close it this evening, and then the commission has 65 days to make a decision. I'm just wondering if I should draft a motion or not.
Well, you know where I stand, I don't know where anybody else
So we,
stands.
let me understand, so if we close it, we could render a decision, right? Is that what you're saying? Or we could keep it open until November 5th.
Right,
Well,
or there's a
but-
third option of closing it.
Closing.
And then closing the public hearing, but then continuing
Yeah,
the
okay.
item.
Mhm.
Wait, that's why I was gonna suggest we close the public hearing. Take a good look, maybe, I mean, with the way it's written, maybe we could put conditions in there to apply, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
actually, for me, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if I would actually, I like to see the whole thing,
Okay.
because we're saying we're gonna add this sentence,
Okay.
but I almost would like to see the entire.
I think you have it, don't you?
Regulation,
With this added, do we have it with this added?
no.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll
That's-
start another
I'm-
public hearing.
I think you should keep it open for.
Do it. This is-
I think we should close the public hearing. Anybody who has wanted to talk about this was either at the last meeting and this,
And then
at this meeting.
I can add that sentence
And then you can
to
look
this.
at, okay,
and-
we'll pass it with conditions A, B, and C, or whatever.
Well,
We can't do that
no,
either.
no.
Oh, okay.
If we want, if we want, we can close the public hearing. We will continue it to the next meeting.
Yes.
Where we can have some thought, we can have further commission discussion prior to rendering our decision. We can't accept any more public opinion, but we can discuss.
Can't change the text either, than what's before you, so if you decide
This
to want.
is-
No, I meant adding this.
Right, but you're not gonna be, if you decide.
Yeah, I
to decide
understand.
to alter it,
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
not
I didn't
gonna
think of
be
that.
able to do
Yep, you're right. That's
What's
true.
that?
I'll do that my own, in my head. A little dense, but I think I can get through it. Okay. So, anyone have a
I make a motion, we
strong opinion? Let's have a discussion. Do we want to continue the public hearing?
No, I think.
Go ahead.
I'd be inclined to
Close the hearing. Continue discussion.
deny it and then come back and take a look at the section. A lot of
Okay.
regulations, and one thing that I'm not familiar with is the different classes of licenses.
Mhm.
And I think if we had that information available, we could use that perhaps to
Yeah.
regulate if we don't want a bar serving hard liquor somewhere. if there's a license that's just wine and beer, which I think there are, in pizza places.
But just for tonight's purposes, do we want to close the public hearing or continue? Personally, I tend to agree with Fred. I think everyone that wanted to speak has been here at the past 2 meetings. I'm not sure leaving it open, we're gonna get a whole bunch of different people, but
I'd like to,
Wanna
if
make
the commission wanted to
close.
review the bring your own booze issue, I'm not sure, I think that's still a gray area, and I'm not sure that has been, vetted, fully vetted, but.
so.
That is the issue there.
It's unanimous.
Close the public hearing, continue the discussion to November 5th. Okay?
Well, would you wanna wait till we get to that?
Oh, yes, we have to, okay. Do we have to wait? We have to wait, right?
Right,
Okay.
that'll be the action on that.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna move on to the next agenda item.
Do we have to look at this, this thing that came in the mail about, from Mayor Pellegrino? Something about, where is it?
What is this about?
About Mr. Pellegrino sent a letter about.
Oh, no, we don't.
We don't have to look at that?
No.
Okay.
Right, that's regarding the easement.
Right.
Right, so that is actually, I'll tell you this again when we get to it, but it has to be referred by town council, so it has to go on town
Oh,
council's
okay.
agenda first and be officially referred by them to us.
Thank you. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
So the next agenda item is under 4C. It's PZ application 2015-11. It's a proposed amendment to the North Branford zoning regulations to add section 38, age-restricted housing district. Applicant Diane Whitney, Pullman and Comley LLC.
Good evening, I'm Diane Whitney from Pullman and Comley at 90 State House Square in Hartford. And I'm here once again on the age-restricted housing district. Based on our conversation at the last meeting, I made some changes to the text. And what I'd like to do is give you both a copy that shows the changes and also a clean copy of what we propose now. This is the copy that makes the changes more apparent.
This is two.
Thank you.
And then this next copy contains the changes, but is a clean copy.
Thank you. Into the 1A and 1B.
The changes that you'll see in the text are on the very first page, in section 38.1, parentheses, small d, we've added another purpose to this district, which would be to serve as a transitional zone between other land uses, such as between industrial uses and residential uses. In the very next section, you'll recall that the original requirement was that a site must contain at least 5 acres, we've now put a cap on that, so it's between 5 and 15 acres. The next page has quite a significant change. This is something that I discussed with you last time. It's really spelling out the age restriction in considerable more detail. So there's less ambiguity about how the age restriction would apply to someone either buying or leasing a unit in this district. The next change is on page 4. It's adding a section under site development plans. And it puts in a requirement that the location of any other district like this, the districts such as this have to be at least 1 mile apart, so that you cannot have these age-restricted districts one next to each other. In the next section on development standards, in the very first one, it says the AHRD lot must have 125 feet of frontage. It used to say on a public street, and now it says on a state highway. And if you go down to section 9, instead of requiring 1.5 parking spaces for every unit, it now requires 2 parking spaces for every unit. As Ms. Leskovich pointed out last time, since garages and driveways can count as parking spaces, that's 2 units right there. I mean, 2 spaces right there anyway. On the next page, it repeats the distance that has to be between 2 of these districts as a mile. And that's all the changes. Do you have any questions about these changes that we've made to the district?
This can apply to any piece of property.
Any
Less
piece
than
of
a mile
property.
apart.
Pardon me?
This can be, as long as they're a mile apart, they can, you want to put these any place, right?
As long as they're a mile apart
5 and 15.
and they're between 5 and 15 acres, and they're on a public highway, and they have either sewer and water or an exemption from that requirement. I mean, there's a number of requirements.
And residential zoned or industrial,
Industrial.
but
Right.
not business.
Can you explain to me, and it's in here, I'm sure, but just to be quicker, the open space requirement?
Open space requirement, right.
Contiguous versus non-contiguous and the amount.
Right. If the open space is on the site itself, it's being developed, it has to be at least 20% of the site, and a minimum of 1 acre. So if it's a 5-acre site, it has to be 1 acre. If the open space property is located somewhere else in town, it has to be 30% the size of the original lot. So there's in a sense, a bonus in that if the open space is not on the same property, it has to be bigger than if it was on the same property. And it also, the town has to determine that, in fact, this other open space someplace else is property that benefits the town as open space.
Who has to?
The town, well, you do.
Yeah, okay.
Or you can accept a fee in lieu of the open space if that's your preference. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because it answered my other question that I didn't ask was, could be useless open space, wetlands and rock ledges with, 50%.
Although you might want to preserve some of that property except that
Yeah.
if it couldn't be built on anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And then, are you changing from a floating zone to a transitional zone, is that?
No, it's still a floating zone, but it's intended to act as a transition
Okay.
between most likely it's going to be between industrial and residential development.
Attorney Whitney, can you just review the floating zone definition, just as an overview again?
Right, a floating zone, which has been used in a lot of towns, and they're still being passed today. Cromwell just passed a floating zone for multi-family housing. A floating zone, you pass the regulation, and it's not, it's in your regulations, but it's not located on any land. In other words, when you pass this regulation, it doesn't change your zoning map in town. It's just out there in the ether. When somebody comes in with a site and they want this floating zone to apply to it, then they ask you to apply this floating zone to a specific piece of property in the town. And then you're locating it, and it constitutes a zone change in that regard. Therefore, it has to, just like any zone change, it has to be in compliance with your comprehensive plan and your plan of development. So in effect, it's no different than a zone change. It's kind of the same mechanism, except it has a whole different set of criteria, and it's not located until someone asks you to locate it. It gives you a great deal more authority. Last time, I don't know if you've all seen the two cases I gave you last time, the Lurie case and the Sheridan case. They both explain that in fact floating zones are allowed in Connecticut, and that they are a way to get more flexibility into your zoning regulations while still giving you a great deal of control. You really have under this kind of mechanism, you have considerably more control over what happens than if we simply change the zone on a piece of property. Because under this process, well, first, assuming you pass the regulation, that doesn't allow anybody to do anything except to come back to you with an application saying, I'd like this age-restricted zone applied to this particular piece of property. You have to agree to that, to apply it to that property.
So, sorry, just to quickly go through that process as a reminder. So, unlike with a text amendment, which we've had a lot of since I've been here, it seems like, where you only have to put a notice in the newspaper, with a zone change for a parcel, like with Mr. Capelli's parcel, they have to put a sign on the property, so the abutters would know, and then the direct abutters also have to be notified. So that's just different from a text amendment where it's just a notice in the newspaper. I would expect that there would be more turnout because people get direct notification about that.
And actually,
So this change exists, but until you say, okay, here's the
Put it
property,
here.
then it triggers this notification, and then we have a review.
and that's why actually when you pass the regulation, and the cases that I gave you state this, that can't be appealed, because nobody has standing to appeal it. Now, when an applicant comes in and says, I want it to go on this piece of property, then there is notice to the abutters, and they can appeal it. And it's a three-part process at that point. It's locating the zone on the property, it's a special use approval, and it's a site plan approval.
First of all, I'm going to say the explanation you put between page 2A through E, those are great. But I do want to ask, to serve as a transitional zone between other land uses, between industrial use and residential. My argument, and I don't know, I think there was some agreement, that the 5 acres was if it was just residential, there are a lot of 5 and 6, originally it was 6 acres, I believe. And there was a lot of 6-acre residential, and maybe they don't have sewers right now, but, you know, they may fit the criteria. Does this change that? I'm not sure this, exactly what that sentence kind of means.
The transitional
Yeah, where you
idea?
say to serve as a transitional zone between other land uses, such as between industrial use and residential use.
Well,
I know an example.
you have a good,
I know an
that one.
example we could talk about.
Well, the one they're applying for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
speaking of
That's
which,
that's a perfect
Right.
example. of what
let
we're
us show
talking
you the
about.
plans for that
Well,
property.
I'm just
So-
saying for the future,
Right.
what does that really mean to us, so that it doesn't apply just to a 5 or 6 acre piece of land.
In
that
the middle
is-
of a residential zone.
Right, right.
And it's gotta be on a state highway, it's
Yeah,
gotta
I
be
know
a
all
mile
that, but
away, yeah.
let's just say there is
Now,
a piece.
it does.
You know, I'm just saying, does this change it?
Well, the way I have it here, that's almost aspirational. It's part of the purpose of the zone, it's not a requirement. And the reason I did it that way is, I think it might be difficult to make it a requirement. If you feel comfortable with us moving that section to another part of this regulation, so it is in fact one of the development standards, and it is a requirement, we could do that. I was having difficulty seeing it as a firm requirement. I was seeing it more as a goal of the whole development.
It would be good as a discussion point when parcels come, though, for us to say.
Does it satisfy
Does it
this?
satisfy that, and then we
Yes.
can have discussion around it, so it's good that it's
How
there.
big is the piece of property where the old town hall is? That whole property?
5.96 acres.
So they could develop that.
Zoned B, no, zoned business.
Business.
Let us show you the plan for the property that you know that we're aiming
Well,
this
the
for.
point is, if we limit it to the 15, that's kind of, I mean, it just seems like places like Evergreen Woods, that's much more than 15 acres, and that's an excellent facility, and I would think a facility that you would really like to have in town, so 15 acres seems like it's too small an acreage to me, I don't know.
Right, and so the discussion the discussion around requiring or having the purpose be providing a transitional zone came as a result of the discussion of, well, if anyone with 5 acres could say, well, I'm
Right.
gonna knock down my single-family home
Well,
and
that's what I'm trying to
put
get
up
at.
30, you know?
Yeah.
So why not do it? But, of course, I'd like to have Attorney Jesmond look at this and make sure that if someone came before this commission and the commission decided to deny it because it was located in the middle of a residential zone that the commission was not comfortable with, we could say, well, not only does it not meet the purpose of the regulation, but we could also look to the plan of conservation and development, which Attorney Whitney has mentioned. So if our plan of conservation says, this whole area is supposed to be single-family residential, but someone's trying to come in and put in, multifamily, it doesn't meet our plan, then that has a lot of weight to it as well. But like I said, I'd like to have
That was really the
his.
biggest thing I was concerned about, was a small piece of property being able to, in a residential area, meeting all the other criteria that,
A lot of them, yeah.
right, could be used, and they may not meet them right now, but who knows in 5-6 years.
Well, you could change the density they have, like right now they're saying 6 units per acre. So the 7+ acre lot, giving up 30% for open space, it gives you between 24 and 30 units, which is what we've already seen numerous times, with 10-foot spacing. Right?
Mhm.
Might be too dense.
Right. That's the the commission has to discuss.
Mhm.
I think they have an example.
Yeah, can we
How did you
explain?
get this example so fast?
No, he's saying 10 part.
With
Wow.
all your-
I mean,
your housing.
kind of as with the last application, I mean,
That way.
this of course would apply all over town, and of course you know that we have in mind a particular piece of property where there seems to be no other vehicle for achieving what we'd like to achieve for this property. So would you like us to explain this briefly so you can just see how it would work on one piece of property you know about?
Okay.
Well, as you can see, this is Clintonville Road.
Sorry, just your name.
I should tell you, this is Mark Calabro, Calabro.
Well, could you bring that a little
From your-
closer? Those of us with
I can
poor
try.
eyesight.
Mark, where you
Trouble
from?
seeing.
From Belfonte Companies.
Fonte
Wait, that's
Company,
good, it's
which
in the
is-
light now.
One of the owners.
Yeah, okay.
So we have, this is the ice rink, and this is the parcel in front, on Clintonville Road. We have 25, roughly 1,600 square foot, 1,600 to 1,800 square foot, single-family residences. All would be, most likely 2 bedrooms, 1.5 to 2 baths, 1-car garages, primarily first floor living, with, potentially a 2nd bedroom and bathroom upstairs for, visiting children, that kind of thing.
And it's residential here, right?
It is residential here, it's residential here. You see industrial.
actually, you can just point out maybe on the zoning map above. You don't even have to move that, I don't think.
Oh, it's up
Left
here.
hand up.
Yep. So where the purple
there.
is.
Here.
Yep.
Oh, right, this where. So yeah, right, this little parcel right here. So you have I-3, all R40 surrounding, with I-3 here, R80.
So the open space is not contiguous, right? It's in the
It
back.
is not, no.
Right.
And
Where they
we
fly the
don't
airplanes.
need to take that, I mean, that's, obviously, we have enough open space on this parcel to meet the 20%. So, that's not necessary for this particular parcel. Just a vehicle for you guys to apply to other parcels if you want.
So there's not 30% left open on that lot?
20%.
20%.
This says
If it's
30.
on this-
Well, if it's on the same
No,
lot, it's
yeah,
20%.
non-contiguous.
If it's non-contiguous,
It's 30%.
this,
Oh, okay.
this parcel here would be
Yeah.
30%.
You get more open space if it's not on the same lot.
It's a nice plan.
Thank you.
This
This,
is,
this
this is
is-
all.
I've
open
seen,
space.
I recall seeing something that was different from that.
Originally, we had
Right.
had, you
It
know,
was more stacked.
some in here. This just is a cleaner plan. It's a little more neighborhood-like. It's got a nice park area in the center, you know, trees and grass.
Where's the visitor parking?
You've got spaces here and spaces here. There are 12, I believe, in total.
And how many units?
25. But every unit
Every
has
unit has 2
garage
spaces.
and as well as driveway parking.
No, but it says it must require, I mean, we can determine how many visitor parking places are required.
Yes,
You can.
So if you say 1 per unit, it wouldn't meet it.
We'd have to increase it, sure.
And that's where you get a lot of your control, and you know, in the next steps of the process.
Now, would that be a town road or a private road?
This is a private road.
It's not wide.
Yeah.
So this regulation, that's just one version, right? So
Yeah.
you could have, that's applying the 6 units per acre.
Yes. This is less than 6.
Okay.
But
What's that
I
at?
believe this is just under 5.
Okay.
Is it
But you
still-
could have them attached, you could have
Could have them attached.
multifamily, multiple floors, so like a triple decker.
I believe so.
And
Is
you
there
could
a
have 4
regulation?
triple deckers, say?
Yeah, I think there's a 3-story.
I think it is, it's 3-story in this regulation.
Yeah, 3, 5, 2.
Right, and that's consistent with our zoning regulations as
Yeah.
well. I mean,
But then you need more parking per unit.
sorry?
If you had
That's
more
a
than,
lot more lots.
if you had multiple family housing, you would need 2 parking places per floor.
Yeah.
Sure, but you wouldn't have as much lot coverage.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
have a
parking
lot
lot.
more parking lots.
Oh, okay, so if you reduce the units and just stack them, all right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the elderly 55 and
Aren't
over.
gonna wanna go up those stairs. most
Right,
likely.
right, so that does
Third floor.
That does limit. your-
drive the design.
Right.
You can put
And that's
brownstones.
another point. If you decide you're not gonna go with this one, and you put in 2 stories or 3 stories, how does the handicap fit into that scenario, especially if
There'd
you're
have to- there'd have to be elevators.
right,
Right.
you'd have to put in elevators,
Yeah, and that's-
which is a big expense.
Which wouldn't work for what we're trying to do.
This seems to be the kind of setup that is very, very popular
Mhm.
with the Sage Group.
Fowler Road has elevators, right?
Fallen Road.
50,000.
Sorry,
Oh,
Doug
yeah.
Anderson's 3-story thing, it has to have has elevators.
If you look at Riverwalk in Branford, it's a very similar type of thing. Of unit.
When they're put up in, right now on Route 17, it's very similar to that.
Oh, yeah, no,
It looks quite nice, actually.
So this is one of the possibilities, and hopefully it's the possibility you'll be seeing again as a special use application. But we thought it would be helpful for you to be able to visualize at least one of the possibilities for this zone.
The only problem is passing the regulation, even though they're presenting this, and I'm not saying they're presenting it falsely, this may be what they're hoping to do, but they could all of a sudden change the whole site plan when they come in, and that puts a whole different light on it, because then you have, I don't know, different, even though the density is probably the same.
Well,
It's public, it's,
We may not be the only people coming in with an
Right.
application, so you may see something very different.
Right, and if it's a bigger area, then, it just would present a different scenario.
goes to Carrie's point about, right, with the Attorney Jesmondi looking at it. And also the point of, once they apply it to an area, it triggers notification, signage, and then you have to notify people.
Oh, yeah, and it
500
would be,
feet radius, and people come and we have
I guess
discussion
there could
around
be
it.
just one public hearing if you had to. That's not likely. I would think you'd have two public hearings, because, and I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head now, but I would think the first public hearing would be locating the zone on the property. That's subject to a public hearing. And then if you grant that, then you come back for a second public hearing on the special use. So you have, the residents would have plenty of a chance to make their wishes known.
So I should know this, but it's late. So because they've been here, what other vehicle will they have specifically for this? If they have a piece of property about that size, and they're interested in putting about that many units in an area about over there, there's no other.
It's zoned R40, so
Yeah, so-
that's what they could do.
It's a variance or something?
No.
No,
No.
you can't.
Even, the
Zero,
only
right?
variance,
Nothing.
but it wouldn't work, is a use variance, and because cluster housing isn't allowed in our
Okay.
regulations, it's illegal,
So this is the only vehicle.
Right, so
for
the
that.
only other
Okay.
option for developing that parcel is R40, which is the underlying zoning.
Okay.
So 40,000 square feet per lot,
Yep.
which would be about 5, 6
5 or 6 houses.
houses.
6 units.
And there's currently just one home on the parcel,
There
right?
is, yes. That's correct. It's right about
What is the reasoning to have 125 feet of frontage on a state highway?
Okay, we felt that was consistent with other requirements that you have in your regulations. Oh, you mean the state highway part?
Yeah.
That was the new part. Quite honestly, to restrict the
Yeah.
number of places in town where it could go, and also in kind of a backhanded way to try and be sure that the infrastructure, the road structure could handle the traffic that would be generated by the development. However, I understand there are a lot of state highways in North Branford, so
Yeah, there is.
it may not restrict it a whole lot.
I think it's a good point, though, that in theory, if it's a state road, in theory, that infrastructure should be there.
Be a little-
Unless it's not,
little
you don't
better.
have 5 houses accessing this area, you're gonna have 24 in this situation, so it's a lot more demand.
Does
You
this,
can't have these little town, these little country roads,
does this require a traffic study?
I think that would be up to you if you thought it needed a traffic study.
It's not in here.
Not
There's
any
no
more than,
requirement for
that's
traffic
the
study.
drive it for Firelight and the ice rink.
Right.
So it's got.
But that
I
would
think
come-
Charlie's asking about the regulation, would the regulation require?
But there is a catch-all in here that says the applicant has to provide whatever other information you require. And if you see a development that you think needs a traffic study, then you require it. It would certainly be within your ability to do that.
Any comments, questions, especially questions for the applicant?
I can only say I feel a little better about this now than I did last meeting. I was very concerned about the 6 acres on our zone.
input.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I'm struggling, I'm not struggling, but the 6 units per acre seems high to me a little bit, but I don't know how others feel about it.
What's the spacing
I
between
mean,
units?
this looks nice, and this is less
20
than
feet?
5.
10-foot lot.
So I'm
Less
trying to
than 6.
envision 6, it gets crowded for me when I throw.
Just slightly under 5, but we have
Yeah.
to look at,
Oh.
any exclusions to the.
How many acres is that total?
It
Just
is-
roughly?
Almost 6 acres, it's
Yeah.
1/10 of an acre under 6.
Yeah. But we're
So
actually
that-
adding a
so
small
you have-
parcel from the
right.
rink, to actually bring it just over side.
Yeah, so
I mean,
envision
that's the thing, is that
36.
if you put 2 together and then you make them, well, not really, because even if you make them double-story duplexes, let's say, you could still only have so many per acre, right?
Yes.
Right.
So it just means less structures with more space in between.
You don't have to, you could have 36 units there.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
I'm trying to envision
yeah.
36 units.
And
So you're
actually-
right, I agree, but you could also have, so that supports. I'm trying to say the other flip side is 36 units on that, I'm trying to visualize that, and it's crowded.
They would still have to meet the coverage requirement for the entire lot, which is 35%, so that would be driving it as well.
Okay, yeah.
And the distances between, and the buffer area on the outside,
Mhm.
I,
Okay, yeah.
I don't think you could do 36 here. Theoretically you could, but I think practically you probably could not.
This is as many as we could fit,
Mhm.
based on these regulations.
Yeah, okay.
And that's with sewer and water,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
So with wells, that would also.
That would be considerably less, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the regulation right now says you have to have sewers and water.
Or
Right.
approval
Moves it
from
over.
East Shore Health.
Oh,
So like you said, that they're not gonna, it's gonna limit it, clearly.
But just to
Somewhat.
kind of reiterate the whole transitional zone, just one thing that I was looking at is other areas of town where I don't know, currently don't know of any, but if there is interest in town, thinking about where the cluster development would be appropriate and where we could kind of handle that density of going from, industrial to a cluster development to single-family residential seems like a good idea, as opposed to just single-family, along a long stretch of a road, and then a cluster development.
Yeah, and we
Even though
have-
there would still
we
be
have a s-
setback requirements,
yeah.
but to make it kind of fit with the character of the neighborhood.
So what's the,
I mean, Montgomery Village is an example where it's, mostly, it's all single family, but that's set back, and if you look at the zoning, the acres per, or the units per acre, it's almost 1-to-1, because that parcel is just so large. I think they have about 50 acres. and
Are
there's
they on
50
public
units.
water and public sewer though?
I don't know.
can't remember.
is there any an increased setback to the residential? Or
It says 15
the
feet.
standard setback?
There are all kinds of distance requirements in here.
I'm speaking more to
Right.
like so we're talking about a transition, so
Oh,
I like the concept of transition, but if it smacks up against someone's house, what kind of transition is that? I mean, it is a transition from industrial, but
It has a rear setback of 30 feet,
30 feet.
and
on page 4, it has all the,
I don't know if there's a side.
details for that.
Some we use
There's
15.
there's a buffer area 15 feet wide containing landscaping, fencing, and/or berms between the district and adjacent property.
Oh, no.
Item 2 says rear setback of 30 feet.
Oh, number
Page
10,
4.
Page 4.
Page 4, item
Yeah.
2 at the bottom.
Yeah.
So look at number 10, the last one.
The piece of property where the old VSW was, the model was burnt
Yes.
down. I heard he was denied to rebuild a restaurant there, somebody was. I don't know who it was, but I heard they were denied to rebuild the restaurant. on that
Where?
pro- Where Amado's was, the old VFW, the old Mason's building.
22.
Oh,
How big is that property there?
I don't know.
It seems like a fairly big piece of property though, right? So they could put, if there was city water and city, I don't think the city sewers there, that's all.
Well,
It's
again,
not-
the
it's not a
transition,
transition
the
from industrial,
the
yeah.
purpose, right, we would have to look at the purpose of a transitional zone. That site also has challenges with this, is that the
Farm River.
Farm River right there?
So it
So
has to be,
flood
it
zone.
has to be a transitional piece of
Well,
property too?
the purpose in here on the first page talks about to serve as a transitional zone.
What is that piece of property, is it?
Amados?
Yeah.
It's gotta be R40.
Oh, it's definitely R forty.
It's R40, that's right, 'cause he was
He's a
thinking of
use
doing residential.
variance.
Yeah.
I
That's right,
don't
right, that's
think
right.
that's a
yeah,
very
so-
big lot, it can't be probably 5 or 6 acres.
Yeah,
Right.
If it's
something like
that
that,
much,
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And sewers in, is there sewers on Route?
I don't think so.
No, there's no sewers there.
Not until you get into Northford
Yeah.
Center.
So you're very limited on where sewers are in town.
Yeah, right.
Can a sewer system hold another 24 houses?
That's for the
Can a sewer system handle
WPCA
another
to
24
decide.
houses?
Yeah, that's,
Well, we'd
That's
have to,
beyond my
yeah,
history.
Right.
you'd have-
Find out.
yeah,
Right.
you'd have to find out. If anything, it'd be less, not more, right? I mean, if you're only doing 24.
yeah.
Well, that would be another restriction.
Yeah, it'd be a natural
On the
restriction.
bigger,
Yeah.
more dense units,
Yep.
depending on where they are.
Okay, any other
Other questions?
questions, discussion?
You've given this a lot of careful attention, and we really appreciate it.
The only other thing I think we should look at is topping at 15 acres.
Hmm.
Because then you're limiting to a really, like I say, another Evergreen Woods, which is a beautiful location. And I'm not sure what they're gonna do down there, I think maybe more on Fuller Road.
Oh, 50 Fowler Road?
Yeah.
Well, 50 Fowler Road, the developer was interested to hear that the commission was looking at a new regulation. They have approval under our existing zoning, which is for elderly developments and has a minimum acreage of 20 acres. So, maybe this could be applied if there's no cap. My concern there is just that you could go up to, if you just look at the numbers of 6 units per acre, it's in the, 400s.
Yeah.
But they would have to comply with coverage and,
Well,
separation distances.
What would your
and-
suggestion be to make a cap on it of what acres?
I don't know, I'd have to take a closer look and, maybe even crunch the numbers to see what 50 Fowler Road would look like. They have mentioned doing a different design, since it seems like the demand is with the single-family homes, 1 floor or maybe 2, but master bedroom on the first floor, as opposed to these large buildings with elevators and multi-floors,
Yeah,
so,
you get that big expense when you talk elevators.
right, right.
This proposed project would be owned by an association? Are they own the homes, or rental homes?
Their
or-
own homes.
But there's an
There would
association?
be an association.
They pay for the road and stuff like that?
And upkeep and.
But didn't you
lawn
also say last meeting, if they didn't sell, they could be leased?
Yeah, something there about renting,
Yeah.
as long as they were compliant to this
Right.
requirements. They have to be 55 years.
So Attorney Gismondi is gonna look at this just to see if it
Yes.
opens us up for,
Right, and just make sure that
Yeah.
it's consistent with our plan of conservation and development, which I've done as well, and I feel that it is. But it's important
Yeah,
for him to
good.
take a look at it.
A quick question, just jumped in my mind. The condos at North Farms,
Yes,
what's the ratio per acre of the condos that
the parcel that's adjacent to this one?
No. North Farms.
On
Oh,
139.
off of 139.
On 139.
On 139.
Yeah.
It's done under the old garden apartment.
It's certainly not age restricted.
Well, that's why they put a
I-
moratorium on the condos.
I don't think that there's a development in town that's greater than 4 units per acre. So I would say maybe 4 units per acre.
Oh,
That's
those
not
are pretty
age
tight over
restricted.
there.
Yeah, that's,
Right.
Those buildings are pretty tight over there.
I can double check.
But it's
and give
not
it to
age
you.
restricted, it's a whole
No.
different.
No, he's
zone.
saying,
I'm just saying buildings per
Right.
acre.
Alright, I can find out.
Okay, any other questions, especially for the applicant since they're here? Comments? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the work you put in this.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's better.
So this, was opened on October 1st. The 35 days brings us to November 5th. So it's up to the commission if you'd like to keep it open or close it.
Any discussion? I thought, should we hear from Jasmondi, right?
Yes.
Sure. Oh, we're closing it. We can close
Public hearing.
public hearing because, and just continue it to the next meeting.
Well, I wonder though
Feel
if
for that?
we
Yeah.
have comments from Attorney Jesmond and then if the applicant wants to respond.
Okay.
Yeah.
And leave it
That's-
open.
That's a fair,
We have to keep it open.
Right.
fair, yep, that's fair. Good point. All right, we're gonna continue the public hearing to the November 5th meeting. Hopefully hear back from our attorney. Okay, so next order of business is the possible actions on public hearings. So the first one, PC application 2015-17, the Mill Pond Tavern.
still waiting to hear back.
Yeah, right, I think we need,
State.
right, there's four or five things, right?
Yeah.
State about the road, state and Alex about the septic,
Lighting.
repaving and lighting, yeah, the lighting plan.
Right.
Yep. So we,
Leave it open.
did we close that?
No, left it
That's
open.
open, okay,
Right.
so that's open till November 15th, November 5th.
No, wait a minute, did we close the public hearing? on
The
that?
next one we did. So the next, possible action, what's that? Go ahead.
Did you guys make a motion and vote on those though?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Do that. So vote to continue, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
to keep
okay.
it open.
Yep. Okay.
I make a motion that we keep this, public hearing open on
2015-7.
2015-7.
Second? Charlie seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, motion carries, nothing, 5-0. All right, next order of business is possible action on PC application 2015-10. It's the proposed amendment on alcoholic beverages. I think we agreed that we would close the public hearing and continue discussions in the next meeting, so do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing and continue discussion on November 5th, on
2015.
2015-10.
Second.
Second.
Charlie beat you. Charlie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 5-0. And lastly, possible action on PZ application 2015-11. And that's the age-restricted housing district.
I move to continue the hearing till our next meeting.
Yep, keep it open and move it, okay? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That will be left, 2015-11 will be left open and continue the next meeting. All right, next order of business is on section 6, old business, PC application 2014-15-6. It's the propane tanks, that's still going?
Yes,
DEP?
no updates.
No update, okay.
Any bills from them? Are they actually doing any work on it?
Haven't heard from them. So, don't have any updates,
So-
changes.
Yep, sorry. Next, 7, new business. Request for a bond release at 2450 and 2470 Foxton Road.
Do you want to?
Special use permits,
Sorry. before you do that,
2006 7-2, yep.
Do you want to amend the, agenda and Dom had requested looking at his site plan, or do you want to go?
Yeah, so we're just looking at it, right?
No, I'm not sure.
What-
I just found out about it.
Do you want us to just just give you opinions about it?
But no, my opinion is that I don't need to come in for a site plan approval.
Oh, right, okay.
And I just wanted
All
to
right.
make, I think that Carrie was not sure
Yep.
About that, and that's why we thought we'd bring it to the commission.
Well, but you had spoken with Linda Reed, correct, the zoning
The
enforcement
arch-
officer?
There are two different issues. One is the site plan approval, the other is the architectural drawings. I'm not in a disagreement on the architectural drawings. I guess I am in disagreement on whether or not I need to come in for site plan approval.
Should we
Is it a
amend
change
the-
of use?
Should we amend the
Site plan?
agenda and hear this?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, do I have a motion to amend the agenda to add Mr. Dom Delvecchio's review of his site plan and discussion on his site plan or change of use?
I
Change
make
of
a
use, sorry.
motion, we amend the
Agenda.
agenda to hear Mr. Delvecchio concern about whether he needs a site plan
Change of
or
use.
just architectural plans.
Yeah, my understanding.
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
You made a motion, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
Okay, my understanding is that it's a retail use. We're thinking about converting the existing service station to a convenience store. It's primarily, the primary purpose is still to sell fuel. The only thing that basically it's a retail use, for soft drinks, whatever they sell in convenience stores. And so my personal opinion is we don't need to come before you for site plan approval. We have adequate parking. We have an approved site plan that shows the parking spaces. We have adequate parking. As a matter of fact, there are less parking spaces required for the convenience store than there are for the service station. There are more parking spaces required pursuant to the site plan that we have on file for the gas station use, the service station use.
Tom, can I ask you one question? When you have a convenience store, we know the site,
Yeah.
so you've got all the gas pumps there.
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you put parking?
Well, there's already parking in place, and that's clearly identified on the site plan. It has to be within 300 feet of the store. We certainly meet that requirement.
Can I just interject? Do you guys know what's going on? You know. Yeah, so.
The Sunoco station
The
across from the
Sunoco
mobile
station,
station.
okay. Yeah, the.
Right?
What's that?
It's a Sunoco station, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
He's changing the use from the repair shop to be a convenience store. He'll keep the gas pumps in the front.
Yeah, nothing's changing. The footprint is not changing of the building. The gas islands aren't changing. The parking has been demonstrated to be adequate. It's all identified in the site plan. It certainly meets all your requirements for, within the 300-foot restriction. The only issue is because it's the design district that we have to present architectural drawings on what the building would look like.
Taking the
So
doors
does
out.
a change of use require a site plan?
Change of use does if you need more parking,
Okay.
which he does not, because interestingly, for a service station, you need 3 parking spaces
Per bay.
per bay, garage bay, and he's getting rid of the bays.
Is it 3 or
then-
5? I think it's 5.
I think it's actually 5,
5
right.
per bay, I
5 per
believe.
bay.
Yeah, right.
So you have 15.
So 15 is required, but then based on the square footage, because he's converting that to patron area, it goes down to 11 parking spaces. So that doesn't trigger it. The question comes in the North Branford Center Town Design District, and it says here, which that parcel falls in, it says, plan submission and required approvals, site development plans. All plans for new construction, renovations, which this falls under, addition and or site improvements in the North Branford Design Districts shall be submitted and approved by the commission in accordance with the design district standards, the plan of development, and the zoning regulations.
And I would just submit the same plan, because there's nothing that's going to change from the existing plan that I
But there,
submitted.
so the same plan as this?
Yes, there's
Well,
nothing.
I would have to,
Yeah.
but
We
it
would
would
look at
reflect
elevations
a,
and stuff and
I would
right,
just
exactly.
look at the look, that's
The
the whole,
architecture.
the design,
And-
we use
Well, that's
design
separate though.
district.
The architectural drawings on the building are separate from the site plan. The site plan refers to the footprint of the building, the footprint of the islands, but the architectural part is, dealing with the building itself, not the footprint.
It's all
We
one,
certainly
it's
look at
all,
that in the site plan.
Right, it's all part of the same submission in my mind.
If you wanted to look up, you got the Shell station at 22 and 80 is converted, and the mobile station down on Route 80 also was converted.
That's not in the design district, though. I think that's what's triggering this, right?
Okay.
It's in the design district.
But you're
right?
saying, it's not really a change of use.
It's a retail use, which is a permitted use by right.
But Charlie, with those examples, you said 22 and 80,
Yeah,
so it was converted from what to what?
gas station.
Gas station to,
Convenience store.
Convenience store.
Just-
One corner,
just like-
not Shell, and 22 used to be a Shell, now
Okay.
now it's Gold.
And the one you just did was further up the street too, in north,
I'll
at the
look
north.
at
Oh,
that.
end.
yeah,
Yeah,
right by the,
and
right by
I'll
the school,
see.
right next
But-
to
I mean,
restaurant.
this says plan submission, site development plan, and this plan just shows the 3-bay garage, which is existing, it doesn't show the convenience store.
So Parkview Motors came here with a site plan with elevations and architecturals and all that. I don't know.
He didn't have he didn't have an approved site plan like we
Oh,
do
yeah.
for this location.
True.
Right.
So I'll just argue that what Kerry just read, it sounds like because you're in the design district, I think that's what's driving it. I mean, it's not
I'm
in
not
the
sure.
bulk standard. It's
Well,
in
that's to get his renovations approved.
Exactly, the architectural,
not the
that's
site plan.
architectural though, that has nothing to do with the site.
It says if there's, in the design district, if you do a new or renovation, which this is, it
Okay.
requires a site plan.
I
Okay,
think
I would just
renovation
submit-
That's
means
what I-
renovating the outside of the building,
Well, he is.
which he really is just taking down the bay doors and putting up
Well,
glass windows.
I have no disagreement with that, the architectural drawings, to show you what the building's gonna look like. My argument is, all my
So what's
engineer's
the
gonna
big-
do is erase the 3 cars that are inside the bay, that count as parking spaces currently, and show that as vacant space. And
Right, so
we're not gonna-
so
it's
why
not
not,
the
why
site
not
plan.
do that? Why not do that and then have the elevations
I'm-
showing the architectural?
I'm very, very concerned about submitting an application before the commission for site plan approval when I don't need it, because there may be a difference of opinion on whether someone would want to see a convenience store in that location, or if they're friendly with another merchant in town that has a convenience store.
Oh, Mr. Delvecchio.
And would deny
I think
the
So-
right of the convenience
That's
store.
doing a
That's my concern.
I think that's doing a disservice to this board.
No, I don't think, I'm just concerned that if I present the
You're
application.
losing ground, man.
So the only thing is, so I'll just argue that you need to do it anyway, so.
Just read what does the section state? The statute.
The plot plan doesn't change other than the 3 bays, right?
If it's in
Right,
the design
right.
We can
district.
argue all day what renovation means, but.
Plan submission and required approvals. Site development plans, this is under 34B.9.1. All plans for new construction, renovations, addition, and/or site improvements in the North Branford Design District shall be submitted and approved by the commission in accordance with the design district standards, the plan of development, and the zoning regulations.
So, I
It
guess my
makes
argument.
absolute sense for the
Are you in the
design
design
district,
district?
because those
And
are
I agree with
pristine
the
areas,
architectural
right?
drawings, but I'm just not sure how the site plan is gonna change as a result of the gas station to the convenience store. I guess that's my concern, I'm not sure
You're not changing the footprint.
exactly, what is gonna change on the site plan? I've demonstrated I have the parking, I have all the parking within 300 feet in accordance with the regulation. Nothing is gonna change on the site plan, other than, no, actually, you can if you just cross out the 3 parking spaces in the bag, because I don't need those to meet parking requirements, nothing is gonna change on that site plan, not a single thing.
There's
gonna
But
change.
is it a renovation?
I don't, personally, I don't believe, there's
Wait,
every
Is it a
time-
renovation, yes or no? You're taking
I
down,
guess-
you're taking down the
you-
garage doors, you're taking
taking
out
the
the
lifts
lifts.
out and you're
And I'm in
and you're
agreement
putting
with that.
shelves
I'm in
for
agreement
food,
that it
drink.
requires architectural drawings because that's a separate section of the plan. I'm in agreement with that you certainly have the right to look at the architectural drawings and how that's gonna be laid out, but my argument is a site plan, the footprint, it's almost like, let's say a tenant leaves one of the stores and we renovate the store, we put up new windows in the storefronts, okay? Would that require a site plan approval? It hasn't in the past, and we've renovated, the outside of the building on numerous occasions with siding and things like that, but it was solely an architectural.
Yeah, but you're
So,
renovating,
I'm
you're
gonna give you-
changing the number of doors that access the building.
He's just
Whether they're-
taking out the
Right,
bays.
you're taking out the bays, you're
And he's
changing.
gonna put in a wall with a couple of big windows like you would see And that's
I'll give you my
the only
opinion.
renovation.
This is the fourth thing I've heard today. This is the only one that's crystal clear for me.
There you
This
go.
is a renovation and it requires a site plan.
You're right.
Because I can see it, it says it
says it
absolutely
in
in
black
there.
and
There's
white.
no argument here.
So what-
It's
what's
a
the-
renovation in this, that our zoning regulations say, if it's a new construction or renovation, you need a site plan. I don't know why we're
It is a
arguing this much.
renovation.
It's very clear in here, for me.
So what kind of site plan does he need to bring?
Well, so I don't know how I'm gonna change that one. That's my argument.
Well,
You're
he
gonna
already-
take,
this
you're gonna
is the
take a
thing.
red marking pen.
No,
Yeah.
we see many
doors,
things. We
room.
can see the
That- as far as the
architectural at that
architectural
time.
drawing, that would be on there, yes, yeah.
I
We
mean,
can
I guess
see the-
what is kind of strange to me, we already pretty much have it, so I don't know why there's that much opposition, because it's already here, so why not just make the change showing this as a convenience store and then resubmit it with the architectural elevations? It's already been done.
Does it require the architectural
Yeah, it
renovations?
does
Yeah.
require that.
Oh,
For the site plan.
elevations. Sorry?
For the site plan now?
No, in
In the-
addition
in the-
to,
Oh, okay.
because it's the
The North
Northford
Branford design.
design. And sorry, just to clarify, I had cited the wrong section, I was citing North Branford, it's the same phrase though, but it's 34A.9.1, just to cover everything.
I'm not trying to be difficult, it's just for me, it's very clear. I think what we've heard for me so far tonight, nothing's been as crystal clear as that. That seems very crystal clear to me.
So what, he'd be submitting for change of use?
Well, I'm not sure I need to, right? It's a permitted use by right, a retail.
Right, no,
Outlet, what
it's
is
just a plan submission, a site development plan that's required per 34A.9.1, because it's in the Northford Design District.
So any renovation
renovation.
on any building,
See, that,
In those districts, yes.
So
we've
he-
never
so-
had to do that in the past. We
It's
put
in
in
the
windows.
Maybe it
in
hasn't
the
been
building,
enforced.
And we've had put up siding on the building. We never had to come in with a site plan approval for renovations
Luckily, now we have
to
a zoning
building.
enforcement officer that
Yeah.
can
Well, maybe that
take a
didn't,
double look at all.
listen,
Yeah.
this is the first time
A
on
lot
your
of stuff
side,
to do with
so
that.
don't yell at me. But,
I guess that's a good thing, I don't know.
maybe that's why, those weren't really renovations, they were improvements to the facade of the building. And maybe it
It's
should have come under architectural
Site
design or
improvements.
something, but it
Well,
wasn't
you
a
can argue for
renovation.
improvements too, but like Kerry said, that's what, for me, that was yesterday
Yeah,
and today is
whatever they
today.
did, they did.
Tomorrow's tomorrow. So,
I guess you need a site plan.
well, if we want to just give him some feedback.
Well,
if
as
you want-
Gary said, he's
how
already
everyone
got
else
the
do
site
that.
plan.
I don't want to steer anyone, but that, for me, it's very crystal clear.
I have no
Well,
problems with
David's
converting it to a
We've read it.
convenience store.
I mean, he's already has a site
I don't have a
plan.
problem with this.
You already got
I don't
soda
have a
machines,
problem
can
with
machines in the
plan.
office anyways, right?
What was this?
I don't know if Ron and Dave have
Oh, yeah,
seen
I'm
that,
sorry.
I was at the
Yeah.
last
Um,
meeting and I don't know if they.
He already has the site plan, it's a minor change to
Is that much?
And it comes in as a nice package. You can see the whole
bring it with the architectural.
architectural.
building.
So here's
It'll
your,
be,
this is the right of way the Dunkin' Donuts started. So he's right here. So here's the two.
No.
He's over here, here he is. These go away. Gas pumps aren't moving, so you just go.
No- Nothing's changed.
No cars.
Canopies not changing.
Right?
Buildings not, footprints not changing. Paving areas not changing, sidewalks not changing. Nothing, I mean, there's really not much there, but.
Isn't there a back entrance, or couldn't there be a back entrance there because you got parking in the back?
Could they be wrong?
Couldn't there be a back entrance there because you've got
I
parking
think
in
for
the back?
security purposes, they
No.
don't want that two entrances to the building.
True.
Yeah,
Subway does, don't they?
No, they've got
Subway
a
does,
freezer,
yes.
they can't.
yeah. No, Subway does,
Subway
Dunkin'
does, yeah.
Donuts does not, Subway. is-
Dunkin' Donuts has their walk-in.
Right,
I
right.
don't think anybody uses that one.
I think actually they have been starting to use it a lot.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people park in the rear and just walk in through the back,
I didn't realize they had a back entrance there. But anyhow, I guess that does it, right?
Yeah, any questions, comments?
Did the other two require site plan approvals, Charlie, do you recall? the Shell station and the,
I don't think so. 'Cause
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because the footprint didn't change.
right, right. That's always been my understanding of it.
Yeah.
I understand the architectural part.
Sure.
Because you're in the design district, I understand you have the right to look at that, but to go through this site development process, it opens up a whole public hearing and,
No, it would be a site plan approval. Where are you getting a public hearing?
well,
Just a site plan.
yeah.
Come here and say.
So it's just administrative. That's why I was just I was unsure about why the resistance.
There's no public hearing because he's not changing anything,
No.
just approving it.
No, and
They're
it's
talking about change of
allowed.
use. That would require the public hearing. If you guys consider it a change of use, that would trigger the public hearing, correct?
Not
The-
necessarily.
No.
No, I mean, so you're in a business zone, it's a business use, it's a retail use. So it's, you can look here on the use chart, it's S, site plan. So, unless you were changing that to a restaurant,
That's a
as an
special use
example.
permit. That's
Exactly,
different.
which is a
Mhm.
public
Right.
hearing. So, or a bowling alley.
Ah.
Which may happen in
That's
the other
interesting.
stores.
There you
Or
go.
a drive-through.
Or that
like-
drive-through
Drive-through.
concept we
Or
had last
a
time.
brew-through.
We proposed a brew-through down in the Carolinas. I don't know if
There
you've
you
ever
go.
been down in the Carolinas. They sell liquor, but you
Oh, yeah.
drive through the building.
Drive-through
I
package
proposed
store.
that, and Bill and Francis and Harry were in support of that.
I don't know if I was support.
But it's, down in the Carolinas, it's a big thing.
I am down.
It's
I
a
wasn't down.
brew-through,
Mhm.
and it's very popular down south. But, yeah,
Right.
and just briefly, the other thing too, we may be coming in for a text amendment also. It seems to be the thing to do these days on the stores, because we really have a difficult time with the retail use. It's been 3 years that they've been vacant, and what's happening is the traditional retail uses on these stores are, your hardware stores, your flower shops, they've all been incorporated into the big box stores that have kind of expanded into the suburbs. So it's very difficult, those traditional uses are gone, so the retail use of these small shopping plazas and the economy that we face today, are really non-existent. They've been vacant for 3 years now. And the other thing too, that is a key factor, in addition to the, traditional uses no longer being viable because of these big box stores, is the internet has really taken away the need for a physical space. Ordinarily, an insurance company or someone like that might necessarily need retail office space, but because of the internet, they no longer need a physical presence in the place. So, certainly after waiting 3 years, we're thinking about maybe coming in for a change of use, or not a change of use, but a text amendment that would allow for additional uses in addition to retail store use, because obviously there isn't a need for that any longer.
In what area is this?
So-
now?
What's that?
In what area?
Where the former package store was and the flower shop.
I'm sorry, I'm
It's
just
in the
gonna,
stores,
just
right?
interrupt, because let me just, let's get back to your first thing here. So,
Yeah.
are we saying, I was gonna say public hearing, see what you got me thinking?
That's
Your
right.
Site plan, right?
Yes.
Are we saying site plan? Site.
Yes.
Site plan approval with no public hearing.
Yes, right, site plan.
Yes.
Fran?
I guess if it's there.
I guess I'm the first one going through that on the conversion, but whatever.
Okay,
It's
we
in-
don't vote, because it's
No,
just,
no, no, I know
we're
you
just
passed
giving you
it. I don't
feedback.
think-
Were the other,
Right.
because the other two places weren't in the design district, right?
No.
No,
Pack
And that's where the
Yeah.
architectural piece comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no architectural review, I don't believe, outside of the design district, is there, Joe?
No.
That only comes in as part of this review because we're in the design district, right?
Actually, the
So,
Shell station on Route 80 might be in the design district. But, the place is in business,
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'll look at the map. But the other thing, it's not just architecture, it's landscape and lighting and all that, so,
Well, none of that will change, so that's already all
Right.
been done.
Yep.
So, Yeah,
My question, in Northford Center,
yeah,
in your section,
yeah.
there's absolutely no crosswalks. You can't get from the school to your establishment without going all the way around Northford Center and coming back. A lot of.
You mean painted crosswalks on the
Yes.
highway route?
Yes.
I think that's for safety reasons, because of the,
yeah, they
would
would,
you
but
wanna
I mean,
encourage
it's
that?
not,
Probably not.
you'd need a light, you need a traffic light.
No. Yeah, in Durham Center, they have, stop for
Oh,
pedestrians and
God,
crosswalks.
no one ever, I know the area you're talking about,
I think
and there was
Milford's
actually
a
a
little more
person that
crowded.
died there.
Right, that's it.
And they had, and what happened is the state came in to put up traffic, that's why Durham has so many traffic lights, because they made the mistake of putting the crosswalk in, someone used it, that was killed, a young kid, and then the state intervened and, forced a traffic light, another traffic light down by the library there, and then, but the guys on the street, no one dare cross that highway, because it's so dangerous, I mean, but they did, the state forced the town after that incident to put in a push button pedestrian, but it went back that it was a town's responsibility. Obviously, I can't control that.
Right. And I guess the question is, whose responsibility is it? Because
Yeah.
I've seen those poor truck drivers trying to get, they pull their truck over to the side of the road,
Yeah.
and, cars are just zipping by them.
Yeah, I don't know why they do
State
that, but there are a
highways,
few
state
that
highways.
pull off to the side there and just park and choose to walk across the road, but I certainly wouldn't encourage the kids to walk across the street. I mean, that's asking for a disaster. I think it'd be a mistake. I don't think many, I can't even think it last time I saw someone actually physically cross the road, other than what you're talking about.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
I live in
Right.
Branford, I go through, but,
I'm gonna interrupt,
Okay.
because it's
Probably
9:30, I promised Fran I'd get her out of here by
Okay.
9, so.
All right, but I did want to,
Half hour
like
over,
you say,
yep.
get some thoughts going forward
Yep.
on a possible text
Absolutely.
amendment to the retail use of the buildings. And, I was thinking, one of the things that seems to be popular because retail use is no longer really viable is maybe expanding warehouse use. And what I mean by that is small warehouse use, not where you would have any machinery, but just simply warehouse storage, whether someone wanted to store things there, they could have access from the rear.
What we've done in the past is have applicants, submit just kind of something for
Yeah,
discussion
exactly.
purposes to the
Right.
commission, and we can put it on the agenda just under,
Or
discussion.
Kind of
and-
work it through with
Right.
you, back and
Right.
forth and
Right.
stuff,
Just
yeah.
go back.
Right.
Yeah,
So we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just stick with the gas station.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to number 7, new business, request for a bond release, 2450-2470 Foxen Road, special use permit, total 2006-07-2.
So I have a memo here from the town engineer dated October 15th, a request for performance bond release. So this is at 2450 and 2470 Foxen Road. It was for a special use permit which involved a gravel removal operation at the reference property. So this is the property that's outlined in red.
Oh, this was Toronto, right?
Yes.
Toriano?
Triano.
Yeah.
Yes,
remember you wanted
and
to
so
move over
Kurt
there.
said, the property has been satisfactorily graded and seeded. The actual work limits were somewhat reduced from what was originally approved due to a reduced demand for gravel materials. The approval has long since expired for this activity. Based upon an inspection on 10/14, it is recommended that the $24,035 performance bond be released in its entirety.
Is that the one like behind Country Paint and Hardware?
Yes, down a little bit, yes. but-
Behind it?
Yeah,
They were
yep,
Behind the package store, actually.
exactly, right.
Can I make a motion? Okay. I move to release the bond of $24,035 for planning and zoning special use application 2006-7-2 for gravel removal operation at 2450 and 2470 Foxen Road, assessor map 41 lots 4A and 5 and B1 and R40 zone respectively. Owner 2450 Foxen Road LLC and Foxen Farms LLC respectively. Applicant Dan Triano, agent Crisco Oil Engineering LLC.
Second. Do you have a second?
Second.
Fran beat you again. All in any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, bond is
Thank you.
released.
This 8 acres
Next,
here.
new business, request for a referral pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-24, regarding a temporary easement of a small strip of land on Merrick Drive, adjacent to 285 Foxen Road.
This we cannot act on at this point. Town council has to actually
Oh, that's
refer it to us first.
Right.
So I believe that's possibly going to be on the agenda for the 20th, and then
This is
we'll
the
see
pizza
it in
place, right?
November. Yes.
He wants to pave that.
Yeah.
It's already paved. It's really just clearing up the use. So historically, the area had been used. He's not proposing to change anything on Merrick or anything in the right of way, except to park his vehicles there. Right now, the approved plan that he got from planning and zoning is sufficient for him at the angled parking. This would just allow for him to have, better
24 cars.
traffic circulation, you remember, cause right now it's a one-way coming in from Foxton and a two-way from Merrick. If he changes the parking, he can have a two-way from Foxton and Merrick.
But also this gives him the additional parking to expand the dining room.
No.
No.
That was already approved.
What was approved?
The, he got a variance for fewer parking spaces, and the dining area was then allowed through, planning, you had already approved the plan for
But he-
his design.
Yeah, he had a big room sectioned off because he didn't have enough parking.
You approved something on,
He only had 12 parking
We
places.
approved,
And he had to remove seating.
yep,
Yeah, he did
that was on the
He made it
17th.
smaller,
Right.
and he's keeping it that way.
Then
He's
we-
not
Well,
gonna
he
come
was gonna
back.
come. no,
then we
he's-
approved 3.
That was at the last meeting and you weren't here.
We
October
approved
1st.
3 less than the total area, although he's only
Right.
going for the smaller area. But we approved parking the entire area minus 3. It was 27, and I think we did 24. Or 24,
Right,
and we
and
did
that was
21.
and that was on
right?
October 1st, based on the variance that was granted on September 21st.
So let's let the town council refer this back to us, and then we'll look at it and discuss it.
And then the last item,
The last item is new business C, Town of North Branford's 2015, 2016 to 2020, 2021 capital improvement program.
so this is,
We see all our salaries,
capital improvement
Shirley.
plan. It was included in your packet. Remember, you had seen it this summer, a draft. Nothing has changed. It's being referred to you before it goes back to council. So it was at town council at the last meeting. They are referring it now to you for comment.
Your zoning enforcement officer isn't here, or wasn't there, right? Are they in here?
Well, these are larger projects.
Oh, this is, okay, this is
The
capital
capital
improvement. This is the
improvement,
budget.
right, not the budget, right.
They had approved, not that it makes any difference, because we're probably gonna just go ahead and yes, but, supposedly, there was $500,000 for the park tennis and basketball field. Nothing's ever been done with that, even though they had the appropriation for it. And then in the next year, they've got, like in this year, they've got, I have to put my glasses on, another,
220,000.
what is it? I don't know, was it another 100,000 or something? I don't know, I just don't know where they come up with some of their figures. I mean, 3 overhead doors, $25,000 for 3 overhead doors, I mean, what are they made out of gold?
So what's I know it's customary or maybe required that we see this, but,
Yes.
I mean, things like that as like a citizen, you should be concerned, from our commission standpoint, what do we
Right,
what
from
do
the
we really,
commission
what do they want us to
standpoint,
look at here?
looking at larger projects maybe that
Yeah.
aren't on there, that you'd like to see
Yeah, I-
done, or that you have questions about. And although this is an opportunity to comment on it, I think probably, earlier in the process is always best.
Yeah.
Maybe when the town council
So
has them.
At this point,
Has the meetings with the public
They're gonna
and.
approve it.
huh?
They're gonna do what they want
I
anyway.
know it.
What, is Harry the one that always raises this up?
Last time when it came
Or
to
is that the
budget,
budget? That's the budget,
he
right?
kind of forced me to not approve it, and I was the only one.
$118,000 for bathroom.
All right, any discussion on this capital improvement
No,
plan
They're gonna
program?
do what they wanna do.
Dave?
So here's
things
a-
that are relevant
here's
to this
a-
commission, not
here's a motion.
No,
citizen
because-
stuff.
because-
If you have citizen comments, go to the
Because
town
Daniel's gonna
council.
cut budgets to the town, so they're not gonna be able to do anything anyways.
What?
You didn't hear that?
No, I'm
For
sorry.
$6 million the state's short, they're gonna cut all the funding to towns.
Oh,
So we're not getting any money from the state.
You wanna do a motion?
There's a motion, Fran, in front of you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Northford the Planning and Zoning Commission, October 15th. I made a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission report favorably on the Town Council CGS Section 8-24 referral on the fiscal year 2015 through 2016 through 2020 through 2021 capital improvement plan.
So a second.
Second.
Come on, Robert. All right, Charlie, seconds. Any discussion? Hey, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thanks. Thanks.
Move we adjourn.
Oh, yeah. A second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Again, this year.
Aye.
Aye.